Chapter 697. At this moment, the entire demonic beast mountain range was in an unprecedented turmoil. One after another, powerful demonic beasts followed the huge group and charged in the same direction. Such a chaotic scene scared countless ordinary demonic beasts into fleeing. Birds and beasts flew away, one by one abandoning their nests and fleeing in all directions. Normally, these terrifying big fellows would stay in their territories. What had gotten into them today? They couldn't stop. Roar! Screech! Deafening roars reverberated through the forest, almost piercing through the clouds. In front of the huge group of demonic beasts, a human was like the leader of the group. Wherever he went, the beasts behind him would follow. Such a scene was enough to shock anyone who witnessed it to the point of questioning their life. It would be fine if it was a group of demonic beasts chasing after that human. However, that human was the one giving orders, and those demonic beasts were following behind like minions. Since when did demonic beasts become so obedient to humans? Of course, as far as the eye could see, Chu Hen was the only human in the vast forest. He could cause as much trouble as he wanted, leading this mighty army of demonic beasts to flatten one mountain range after another. There weren't many of these demonic beasts, but the aura that erupted from each demonic beast was extremely intimidating. Among them, there was no lack of beasts that were more than 100 zhang tall. There were those that crawled on the ground, those that flew in the sky. There was everything. Roar! At this moment, an iron-armored flying dragon that was more than 200 meters long dashed out of a cave on a mountain peak. The unparalleled aura of a beast king made countless demonic beasts shudder. This iron-armored flying dragon was like a giant lizard with a hard shell full of sharp thorns on its back. A pair of huge wings spread out, and it directly traversed 100 zhang in the sky. Third-level beast king? Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and there was some excitement in his eyes. It seemed that his luck was not bad. He actually obtained such a powerful beast king. This iron-armored flying dragon alone was enough to fend off Lu Chuanfeng of the Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce, who had been chasing after him. Screech! Just as Chu Hen was feeling pleased, a majestic and impassioned roar came from the sky. A giant eagle flew through the air. This giant eagle's body was as black as ink, and its beautiful black feathers were free of any impurities. Illusory black flames flowed all over its body. An earth-shattering wave of heat swept over, and a huge black shadow covered the sky. Its powerful aura shook the mountains and rivers in all directions. Heavenly dark eagle. Chu Hen's face was filled with joy. This was another powerful existence at the level of a beast emperor. In comparison, the dark sky eagle's bloodline was stronger than the iron-armored flying dragon's, so there was no need to doubt its combat strength. Hiss, hiss! Suddenly, a bone-chilling aura surged over like an undercurrent from the deep sea, along with a majestic and monstrous momentum. An incomparably huge python soared into the sky, like a soaring dragon or a leaping tiger, swaying its huge body as it approached. This giant python's body was 600 to 700 meters long, and its entire body was covered in tightly packed scales. The scales were as bright as gems, shining brightly and radiating brilliance. However, the most shocking thing was that this giant python had 3 heads, and on each head there was a sharp horn. What? Chu Hen's pupils dilated slightly, and his eyes flashed with a rich light. The tri-elemental splitting python was a terrifying level 4 beast emperor. It possessed the origin energy of 3 different attributes, and among the many beast emperors, it was not an existence to be trifled with. Surprise! Absolutely a pleasant surprise. Chu Hen did not expect that even the cautious and cunning tri-elemental splitting python would be tricked by him. Perhaps this was sufficient proof of how tempting the wanshou fruit was to the mystical beasts. Chu Hen patrolled the area where he had thrown the wanshou fruit the day before, and did not miss a single spot. After the arrival of the 3 beast emperors, more and more powerful beast emperors joined the team. Chu Hen could be said to be unable to contain his joy. Today's net was going to have a great harvest. Half an hour later, Chu Hen flashed down from a highland. In front of him, there were 300 to 400 menacing, mystical beasts. There were winged tigers, giant tortoises covered in spikes, crocodiles with wolf heads and crocodiles, and so on. There were all kinds of mystical beasts, and Chu Hen could not take in all of them. There were many that he could name, and some that he could not. However, these mystical beasts, who were usually violent and cruel, were looking at Chu Hen with gentle gazes. They knew that he was a human, but there was an inexplicable sense of familiarity and intimacy. The mystical beasts covered the sky and the earth, like a group of demons dancing wildly. Chu Hen began to take inventory of the mystical beasts in front of him. There were more than 340 mystical beasts in total. In other words, of the 400 wancho fruits that he had thrown out, more than 50 of them had sunk into the sea without any returns. They might have been destroyed in the process of fighting among the mystical beasts, or they might have been eaten by a mystical beast, and then killed by a mystical beast that had caught up. No matter what, this had exceeded Chu Hen's budget. Among the 340 mystical beasts in front of him, there was a level 5 beast emperor. This was a 300-meter-tall earth bear king. Its brown fur was unusually thick, impervious to swords and spears, and impervious to fire and water. Its enormous power was like an insurmountable mountain, and its terrifying aura made people only dare to watch from afar, not dare to approach. Chu Hen looked at the Earth Bear King in front of him and muttered to himself, "If you had been here a few days ago, I would have killed that black bear from Innocence Valley." Below the Earth Bear King were 3 level 4 beast emperors. They were the 3 elemental sky-ripping python, the remote sky eagle, and the ancient woolly mammoth, which was covered in blood-red fur. Moreover, the number of LV3 beast emperors had reached 5. Looking at the powerful existences in front of them, not to mention being hunted down by the people of Shanghai City, it would only take them a few minutes to destroy the branch of Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce. After a quick count, there were a total of 28 beast emperors. Without a doubt, Chu Hen had really made a fortune this time. With the help of 20 experts who were comparable to the profound world realm, Chu Hen's strength could be said to have skyrocketed in a straight line. With this army of mystical beasts, Chu Hen definitely had the ability to defeat more than half of the forces in the victorious East State. To be honest, Chu Hen had scattered a total of 400 wancho fruits, but he had only obtained 28 beast emperors. The probability was less than 1 in 10. If it wasn't for the huge number of wancho fruits that Chu Hen had obtained, he really wouldn't have been able to obtain such help. However, Chu Hen was already very satisfied with these results. Among the 300 or so mystical beasts, the majority were beast kings, which was close to 80% of the total. And among this 80%, more than 90% were high-level beast kings of level 7 and above. Such a huge army of beast kings would be a very impressive force if they were brought out. As for the rest, they were like chicken ribs. However, these spirit beasts had all devoured the wancho fruits. If they were lucky, there was a high chance that they would become beast kings. Then next is to sign the summoning contract. Chu Hen raised his hand and waved it. A scroll that was suffused with a dark purple light pattern appeared in his palm. The faint chi pattern spread out in the air, attracting the gazes of all the monstrous beasts. Chapter 698. Then the next step is to sign the summoning contract. Rumble! A gorgeous purple light pattern rippled in the air, and in Chu Hen's palm, a beautiful scroll that was suffused with a dark purple light pattern immediately appeared. The rotating myriad beast's portrait. It was a supreme treasure that could make up for the biggest flaw between humans and beasts when they fought side by side. One must know that the 1,000 beast fruit had the magical effect of getting close to beasts. However, it was almost impossible to keep beasts by one side at all times. After all, humans and beasts had different living habits. Moreover, there was no place for beasts in the cities where humans lived. Therefore, even if the 1,000-beast fruit allowed one to obtain beasts as support, one would not be able to participate in any mission like a companion. At most, one would be able to participate in the battles in the outer regions as a mount for beasts when they went out. However, this rotating myriad beasts portrait could make Chu Hen and the many beasts present sign the summoning contract. No matter when, no matter where, as long as these beasts were still alive, Chu Hen could use this rotating myriad beasts portrait to space shift and summon them in the form of a teleportation formation. Then they could participate in all kinds of battles and assist in missions. Whoosh! The rotating myriad beasts portrait opened up and floated in front of Chu Hen. It emitted a gentle light, like a god's decree. Chu Hen spread his arms, as if he was the ruler of this world. He shouted loudly, "Everyone, I'll leave the rest to you. If you're willing, I, Chu Hen, will lead you to conquer the world." Roar! Screech! A heroic aura shot into the sky, and the beasts responded one after another. Roar! The domineering, violent Earth Bear King was the first to step forward. As a level 5 Beast King, it could be said to be the strongest here. If it didn't make a sound, no one present dared to move. The violent Earth Bear King stood in front of Chu Hen like a mountain. Even though it had swallowed the 1,000-beast fruit and fell very close to Chu Hen, it did not seem to be willing to be used by Chu Hen. Roar! A low and deep roar came out from its throat, as if it was questioning Chu Hen on what virtue and ability he had to make them obey his orders. When faced with the formidable pressure emitted by the Earth Violent Bear King, the corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled up slightly, and it was suffused with a faint arc. "Let me ask you, is this feasible?" Buzz! In the next moment, an extremely powerful aura erupted from Chu Hen's body, and his deep, pitch-black eyes immediately turned a demonic purple. His pupils, which were like those of an ancient demon god, were like sharp swords that directly met the huge eyes of the Earth Violent Bear King. For some unknown reason, the Bear King's enormous body involuntarily trembled when it came into contact with this pair of demonic purple eyes. Even someone as ruthless as it actually felt an indescribable sense of reverence. Screech! At this moment, a loud and clear bird cry resounded from within Chu Hen's body. This bird cry was like a judgment that originated from a supreme bloodline, and it gave off an extremely dignified aura. The hearts of all the demonic beasts present could not help but tremble, and they suddenly felt a sense of submission towards Chu Hen. Roar! The Earth Violent Bear King's gaze, which was mixed with indifference, gradually turned into trust and fear. Immediately it did not hesitate at all, and extended its huge paw. The space trembled slightly, and a drop of brown demonic beast's essence, blood, separated from its paw. The essence, blood, rapidly fell, and it directly fell towards the revolving 1,000 beasts portrait in front of Chu Hen. Buzz! Like raindrops, the essence blood landed steadily on the glowing purple scroll, and a circular ripple appeared on the surface of the scroll. In an instant, the revolving 1,000 beasts portrait immediately released a strange, resplendent light. The drop of essence blood fused into the scroll, and it turned into a special rune that appeared in an empty space. Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and he saw that the rune was suffused with a bright golden light. It looked like the face of a violent bear. Hiss, hiss! Screech! Roar! Following that, the level 4 beast emperors, the 3 elemental sky-ripping python, the remote sky eagle, and the ancient woolly mammoth also arrived in front of Chu Hen. 3 drops of demonic beast blood essence, each suffused with a different luster, slid down from their bodies and merged into the revolving myriad beasts diagram like raindrops falling into water. Buzz! 3 different colors of light were released from the scroll, and the 3 drops of essence blood immediately turned into different rune patterns, which appeared in the empty space on the scroll. The Tri-Series Tearing Python turned into a rune pattern of a small snake. The small snake had 3 heads, and it looked very similar. The essence blood of the remote sky eagle turned into a rune pattern of a bird, spreading its wings. The ancient mammoth turned into a rune pattern in the shape of a small elephant. Chu Hen was amazed. From the runes that appeared on the scroll, he could tell what the corresponding demonic beast was. Everyone, it's too slow to come one by one. Why don't all of you come together? Swoosh! Chu Hen waved his hand, and the revolving 1,000 beasts portrait was thrown into the air. Boom! In the next instant, over 300 huge demonic beasts exploded with a torrential aura. Each of the demon beasts emitted a particularly dazzling brilliance. Then a drop of demon beast blood essence with gentle patterns of light separated from their bodies at the same time. Hundreds of colorful drops of essence blood danced in the air, and it was as if a colorful divine rain had fallen from the 9 heavens. Streaks of dazzling demonic beast essence blood flew towards the revolving 1,000 beast diagram that was suspended in the sky and rapidly integrated with it. Buzz, buzz! The revolving 1,000 beasts portrait continuously released waves of dazzling brilliance. Circle after circle of light patterns spread out with him as the center. In the empty space on the scroll, strange runes in the shape of demonic beasts began to appear one after another. Each drop of essence, blood, corresponded to the shape of a demonic beast. In the blink of an eye, over 300 demonic beast rune patterns appeared on the scroll. Swoosh! With a thought, Chu Hen grabbed the scroll that was suspended in the air into his palm. Looking at the different rune patterns on the scroll, he was amazed. This looked like the real 1,000 beasts portrait. Chu Hen was especially satisfied. Holding onto this scroll, it was as if he was holding onto a supreme treasure. Yeah. At this moment, a small voice came from behind the demonic beasts. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He saw a little monkey that was less than half a meter tall hopping over to him. It looked at the revolving myriad beasts diagram in Chu Hen's hand and pointed here and there, as if saying that everyone had a share and had forgotten about it. Chu Hen could not help but be stunned. One of the 1,000 beast fruits was actually fed to a monkey. What a waste! Chu Hen shook his head. No matter how he looked at it, it was just an ordinary monkey. Other than the golden fur on its body, which was a little cuter, there was nothing special about it. Go back! Chu Hen said. He did not intend to use this little monkey as a summoned beast. After all, it was too ordinary. He could not feel a strong, demonic power fluctuation in its body. It did not matter whether he wanted it or not. However, this little monkey seemed to understand Chu Hen's words and suddenly showed a wronged look. Like an abandoned child, it squatted on the ground and drew circles. Chu Hen found it funny. This little guy was very understanding. It could be treated as an ordinary pet, but it was indeed too weak as a summoned beast. Just when Chu Hen was about to ignore it, something unexpected happened. The little monkey actually bit its finger and blood flowed out. It jumped in front of Chu Hen again. Its big round eyes were full of innocence, as if it was specially begging Chu Hen to take it in. Looking at the other party's clear eyes, Chu Hen's heart was actually touched. Towards things that were innocent and pure, people could not bear to reject them. It was the same for Chu Hen. He shook his head and smiled. All right, seeing how cute you are, I'll let you join in. The little monkey was pleasantly surprised. Its pair of bright eyes were full of spirit. It jumped and jumped, its mouth making sounds of joy. Immediately after, Chu Hen handed the revolving 1,000 beast scroll to it. The little monkey then used its bitten finger and gently pressed a red mark on the blank space of the scroll. Buzz, buzz! An illusory and gentle golden light emitted from the scroll. The red mark immediately twisted and flowed, then formed a rune pattern of a monkey's head. Looking at this slightly comical monkey head pattern, Chu Hen could not help but feel that it was funny. He was probably the first person in history to accept a monkey as a summoned beast. However, it did not matter. After all, it did not matter much whether he had it or not. Next, it's my turn. The summoning contract signed by the revolving 1,000-beast scroll was a two-way street. After these beasts became summoned beasts, Chu Hen also needed to make this scroll recognize him as the owner. Only by becoming the owner of this revolving 1,000-beast scroll could he use it. Hiss! A sharp blade of air cut Chu Hen's finger. A drop of red blood immediately flowed out of the wound and slid down, falling towards the revolving 1,000-beast scroll. Drip, drip, like the sound of a drop of water falling into a lake. The moment Chu Hen's blood fell on the scroll, a circle of illusory light spread in all directions. However, in the next second, something unexpected happened again. The moment Chu Hen's blood merged with the 1,000-beast scroll, all the beast's rune patterns on it exploded with an extremely intense and dazzling light. What? Chu Hen's heart was startled. What situation was this? Rumble, an extremely agitated energy force, was like a volcano that suddenly erupted. Tens of thousands of dazzling lights were like the sun and stars, fully blossoming from the revolving 1,000-beast scroll. In an instant, the world lost its color and the sky dimmed. The raging energy waves set off a monstrous force. All the beasts were forced to take a few steps back by this violent force. In the next second, the light that was as vast as the sun immediately enveloped Chu Hen. At the same time, an unprecedented majestic energy force directly surged into Chu Hen's body. This energy was so strong that it was as vast as the sea and as strong as a torrent. Without any warning, it rushed into Chu Hen's 8 extraordinary meridians, directly reaching his dantian. Chapter 699. Buzz. The sudden change caused Chu Hen's heart to tremble violently. At the moment when his drop of blood merged with the million-beast portrait, a myriad of dazzling rays of light burst forth like a sun. The immense power was like a tsunami that had suddenly risen and stacked up. Chu Hen's pupils immediately shrank to the size of a needle. In the next second, the endless dazzling light patterns, like the holy radiance of a divine sun, completely enveloped Chu Hen. Immediately after, a wave of vigorous energy as vast as the sea directly surged into Chu Hen's body. Heaven and earth dimmed a little, and everything in the sky was illuminated. The surrounding demonic beasts all roared at the sky, emitting waves of roars. In Chu Hen's hand, it was as if he was holding a dazzling star. A steady stream of golden light was released from the revolving myriad beast diagram and integrated into Chu Hen's body. The incomparably enormous energy was like a raging torrent that broke through a dam. It was unstoppable. Chu Hen only felt as if all his major meridians were about to burst open. The incomparably pure energy flowed through his 8 extraordinary meridians and gathered in his dantian's sea of qi. This is the energy of the 1,000-beast fruit? Chu Hen was extremely shocked, and many questions arose in his heart. Wasn't it said that only demonic beasts could absorb the energy of the 1,000-beast fruit? He had indeed tried it once before, and humans were indeed unable to absorb any energy from the 1,000-beast fruit. But now, Chu Hen's heart trembled again. It's the million-beast portrait. In that instant of enlightenment, Chu Hen made a huge discovery. The 1,000-beast fruit could be absorbed by the human body. The procedure was to first let the demonic beasts consume the 1,000-beast fruit, then use the million-beast portrait as an intermediary point, and finally transmit it to the human body. The incomparably pure energy of the 1,000-beast fruit was mixed with strands of demonic beasts' energy. 28 beast kings, more than 200 beast kings, and nearly 100 spiritual beasts, the energy extracted from the bodies of so many demonic beasts could be said to be incomparably huge. The surging power rapidly rushed into the Yuan Dan in Chu Hen's dantian. Buzz! The Yuan Dan, which had 9 cracks on it, shook violently, and an extremely restless feeling spread out from the Yuan Dan, like the magma inside a rapidly brewing volcano. The uncontrollable turbulence became more and more violent. Chu Hen was already unable to control the changes within his body. Subsequently, with an incomparably heavy rumbling sound, an extremely powerful and vigorous aura swept out from Chu Hen's body. His Yuan Dan, which had 9 cracks on it, was actually blown apart by the endless true Yuan, like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon. The Yuan Dan directly caused Chu Hen's Dantian's Dantian to fall into an unprecedented turmoil. In the next moment, at the location where the Yuan Dan had burst open, a hazy ball of light appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. This ball of light quickly swept out like a nebula, growing larger and larger, and rapidly occupied Chu Hen's Dantian's Dantian. Boom! Chu Hen's Dantian's Dantian was rapidly changing. In the blink of an eye, the original Dantian's Dantian had disappeared, and in its place was a chaotic space. The chaotic space was only divided into heaven and earth. Above was the sky, and below was the earth. At a glance, it was vast and boundless. Buzz! Immediately after, the ground of the chaotic world actually split open into countless dry cracks, and a pool of true yuan rapidly emerged from the cracks on the ground. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a golden true yuan lake. True Yuan Violet Palace. Feeling the tremendous change in his body, apart from being shocked, Chu Hen's face immediately surged with a strong sense of ecstasy. The Yuan Dan had broken, transformed into the Violet Palace, gathered the fortune of heaven and earth, and seized the spirit energy of all things. The Earth Profound Realm. Boom! An even more enormous and monstrous aura swept out from Chu Hen's body, and the ground quickly split open into many narrow cracks. The many demon beasts that gathered around Chu Hen all let out extremely excited roars. Purple Palace formed, Earth Profound Realm. This so-called true Yuan Violet Palace was a little universe formed in Wu Xiu's body after he stepped into the Earth Profound Realm. It could also be said to be the space formed by the evolution of the Dantian's Dantian. However, the two could not be compared on the same level. Not only could the true Yuan Violet Palace continuously produce true origin energy, but it could also store external energy. The true Yuan Violet Palace in the early stage was a chaotic world, and as the realm increased, it could grow all kinds of flowers and plants. When he broke through the Earth Profound Realm and stepped into the Sky Profound Realm, he could gather the energy of the sun, moon, and stars. At that time, his body would be equivalent to having his own independent world. Inside the true Yuan Violet Palace, the earth quickly took shape and spread out in all directions. The endless true origin energy gathered into a lake, and it was especially majestic and surging. Screech! At this time, a loud and clear bird cry reverberated within Chu Hen's body. In the sky above, a gorgeous rainbow blossomed. 10,000 rays of multicolored light poured down, and a huge creature that was like a divine bird astonishingly appeared within his purple palace. The saint-winged heavenly flame bird spread its wings and soared, like a phoenix dancing in the 9 heavens. You finally condensed the true Yuan Violet Palace. This place is much bigger. Chu Hen did not know whether to laugh or cry. Did this damn bird really treat his body as a bird's nest? Not only did it not want to leave, it even complained about this and that. Rumble! Then, on the other side of the sky above the Z Mansion, a boundless purple light fell down, along with the bursts of distortions in the space. Endless purple light gathered and rotated in a spiral, and a pair of huge purple eyes appeared under the vast heavens. Rumble! And somewhere else, the 9 heavens nebula rotated, and the momentum soared to the sky. A black shadow that was tens of thousands of feet high appeared with a shocking momentum, and the terrifying power was like an ancient fiend god. Surprise! Chu Hen was even more surprised. In this true Yuan Violet Palace, he could feel the power of the demon pupil's sacred body and the chaotic force more clearly and keenly. Rumble! At the same time, in another direction, the thunder clouds were dense, covering the sky and earth. Countless dense black lightning interweaved like a huge net, emitting a destructive power that shook the sky. This was the power of the dark thunder. And above the thunderclouds, a few stars were faintly discernible, and from time to time they sprinkled silver holy light, making the hazy void dotted with dazzling stars. This was also the power of the seven stars, the chaotic force, the power of the demon pupil, the power of the stars, the power of the dark thunder, and even a trace of weak yin and yang power. At this moment, all the power that Chu Hen had mastered, all appeared in this true Yuan Violet Palace. All the power in the Violet Palace. The sensitivity was greatly increased. This had become a small universe that only belonged to Chu Hen. The profound world realm and the void-piercing realm could be said to be a huge watershed. To a certain extent, after stepping into the profound world realm, one could really be regarded as a true expert. In the future, as the realm increased, the true Yuan Violet Palace would continue to improve and evolve, and the benefits it would bring would be beyond Chu Hen's imagination. At the same time, a continuous stream of huge power was still flowing into Chu Hen's body through the revolving Thousand Beasts diagram, and directly into the true Yuan Violet Palace. The Violet Palace was filled with a particularly strong energy aura. After all, this was the energy brought by more than 300 demon beasts, among which there were 28 powerful beast emperors. The value of this power could be said to be like a river or a sea. Buzz! Suddenly, the majestic turbulence in Chu Hen's true Yuan Violet Palace once again rose to the sky. The surging true Yuan power set off endless wild waves. In the next second, the ground once again cracked open countless deep cracks, and the true Yuan power that was even more turbulent than before rose up. In just the blink of an eye, the true Yuan power that was like the size of a lake had increased several times, forming a river, the second rank of the profound world realm. Indescribable surprise filled Chu Hen's body and mind. In an instant, he jumped 2 levels from the peak of the void-piercing realm, and the powerful aura that Chu Hen released once again caused the beasts to roar wildly. Chapter 700. Second level of the Earth Profound Realm. Boom! Along with an unprecedented majestic aura that exploded from Chu Hen's body, the incomparably ferocious gales directly caused countless densely packed cracks to appear on the ground. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Countless beams of light formed from true essence pierced through the sky. The numerous demonic beasts gathered around Chu Hen were shaken to the point of retreating. Even the massive body of the 5th level beast emperor, the violent Earth Bear King, trembled a little. Triple heaven-tearing python, remote sky eagle, ancient woolly elephant, armored flying dragon, and many other beast emperors revealed a deep sense of fear in their eyes. In an instant, he jumped 2 levels from the peak of the 9th level of the void-shattering realm, and directly soared to the 2nd level of the Earth Profound Realm. This scene also caused these beast emperor-level existences to feel shock in their hearts, especially when the might Chu Hen released could even shake the violent Earth Bear King. This was enough to show that the opponent's battle prowess was far beyond his level. Roar! Screech! The roars of the beasts shook the heavens and the earth. Under the excited roars of the beasts, the aura released by Chu Hen gradually retracted. The revolving myriad beast diagram also rapidly dimmed. The dazzling light quickly retracted and calmed down. In the blink of an eye, it returned to its previous state. Hua! Soon after, Chu Hen slowly opened his eyes. An aura completely different from before flowed out from between his brows. Chu Hen's temperament seemed to have completed a sublimation. It gave people a feeling of being countless times stronger. Is this the Earth Profound Realm? Chu Hen slowly raised his right hand, and with a clench of his 5 fingers, he clenched them into a fist. Bang! A huge sound rang out, and the ground on his right immediately caved in to form a huge hole. A powerful airflow spread out, causing many beast kings to crawl on the ground in fright. Roar! The violent Earth Bear King let out a low roar, as if asking Chu Hen for instructions. Chu Hen raised his head and said loudly, "You can all leave now. If anything happens, I will summon you." The beasts all lowered their heads and muttered. Then they turned around and quickly dispersed in all directions. Boom! Their powerful auras caused the ground to tremble. The gigantic creatures were like moving mountains, and the scene was so grand that it made people want to avoid them. Yeah, just as Chu Hen put away the rotating myriad beasts illustration and was about to leave, a little fellow that was less than half a meter tall bounced around in front of him. Needless to say, it was that little monkey again. She looked at Chu Hen innocently with her big round eyes. She looked very cute. "You should leave too, little fellow." Chu Hen faintly smiled. However, the other party looked at Chu Hen with a weak expression. Then it stretched out its furry little hand, as if it was asking Chu Hen for something. Chu Hen was startled and asked uncertainly, "You want the 10,000 beast fruit?" Yeah. The little monkey hurriedly nodded, but it seemed a little embarrassed. This was very similar to the emotions of humans. This fellow was really greedy. Chu Hen was secretly amused. He had already fed a 10,000 beast fruit that was worth more than 50 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones to a monkey. Who would have thought that this fellow actually wanted another one if it was a normal day? Chu Hen would naturally ignore it. But today's harvest was extremely rich. Not only did he obtain a powerful demonic beast army, he also entered the profound world realm. This series of good things made Chu Hen feel especially good. Then he moved his palm and took out a 10,000 beast fruit and handed it to the monkey. "Take it." Yeah, the little monkey jumped up happily, and its big round eyes were shining. It hurriedly took the 10,000 beast fruit from Chu Hen's hand and then took out a peach out of nowhere and returned it to Chu Hen. No way. Looking at the peach that the other party handed over, Chu Hen could not help but laugh. This little fellow was really not an ordinary person. It actually knew how to return the favor. However, Chu Hen had no intention of taking this peach. "I don't want it. You can keep it and eat it." The little monkey blinked its clear eyes, which were as bright as a lake. "I should leave now. Goodbye." Chu Hen did not intend to stay here for long. It had been almost half a month since he separated from the people from Mount Kunliu. Now that the situation in Victorious East State was so chaotic, it was difficult to guarantee that Dan Jun and the others would not encounter any unexpected situations. It was better to meet up with them as soon as possible. Immediately, Chu Hen stepped into the air and turned into a ray of light. Yeah. The little monkey held the peach in one hand and the 10,000 beast fruit in the other as it watched Chu Hen disappear into the horizon. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen flew away. The little monkey looked at the two fruits in its hands, as if it was hesitating which one to eat first. After thinking for a while, it finally took a bite of the peach and walked into the forest in the back area like a child. However, not long after the little monkey entered the forest, a pair of huge scarlet eyes appeared in the deep and dark bushes. The huge eyes, which flashed with a cold and ferocious light, stared at the 10,000 beast fruit in the little monkey's hands, revealing traces of greed. Completely unguarded, the little monkey chewed on the peach as it walked forward. It did not notice that danger was quietly approaching. Boom! In the next moment, the earth shook and the mountains shook. A cold aura of death surged over like a cold current. Towering trees were knocked down one by one. A giant crocodile that was more than 200 meters long suddenly rushed out of the darkness. The terrifying aura crushed down, and the little monkey jumped in fright. It suddenly turned around and saw that the bloody mouth full of sharp teeth had already arrived in front of it. In front of this giant crocodile, the little monkey was not even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. The thick aura of death completely surrounded it. Bang! In an instant, a violent explosion that shook the heavens suddenly spread out in the forest. Accompanied by a majestic and monstrous turbulence, a bright golden beam of light pierced the sky and reached the ninth heaven. With the beam of light as the center, a vast and majestic shock wave swept in all directions with a crushing force. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Rocks flew into the sky. The lush and luxuriant vegetation was all crushed into powder. The ground cracked layer by layer, and a thick layer of soil was scraped off. At the center of the explosion, there was a huge crater. In the pit, a giant crocodile was torn into pieces. Its flesh and blood were a mess, and it could not be more dead. "What is that?" Chu Hen, who had not completely walked far, revealed an astonished expression as he looked back at the pillar of light that shot into the sky behind him. What a strong aura! Chu Hen frowned slightly and was secretly shocked. It seems that there are still some very terrifying existences hidden in this monster mountain range. After a brief hesitation, Chu Hen did not plan to go back to check. He did not stay here and left a shadow in the void, heading toward the outer area of the mountain range. A few days later, Chu Hen finally returned to the outer area of the monster mountain range. In the past few days, the power in Chu Hen's body became more and more stable. Compared to the void-piercing realm, the profound world realm was absolutely two different concepts. With regards to the various powers that he had mastered, Chu Hen could mobilize a huge amount of true inner force with just a thought. If Chu Hen were to fight Lu Chuanfeng again, Chu Hen had absolute confidence that he could take his opponent's life within 3 moves. I wonder which direction Deer Chasing City is in? Walking to this side, Chu Hen seemed to have discovered an important problem. Haozi, Huaxue, and Nongqi forgot to tell him the specific location of Deer Chasing City when they left. After all, at that time, everyone's thoughts were on Yi Yao alone. It was normal for them to forget about it. It was necessary to find someone to ask. Chu Hen looked at the undulating mountains and forests around him and then spread his huge perception to the surroundings. There is the aura of human Wu Xiu there. Very quickly, Chu Hen discovered that there was a rather violent movement about a dozen miles southwest of him. Without hesitation, he swept through the air and flew in that direction. Chu Hen's speed was extremely fast, constantly closing the distance in front of him. Chapter 701. Boom! Roar! When Chu Hen arrived at the place where the commotion was coming from, he saw that a fierce battle had broken out in the area in front of him. This was a battle between the human Wu Xiu and the demonic beasts. The human Wu Xiu had suffered heavy casualties, and only 5 or 6 people were still fighting with all their might. On the other hand, the demonic beasts outnumbered him by several times, and there were even 2 powerful existences at the level of a beast emperor. The suppression in numbers had established an absolute advantage for the demonic beasts. Under the siege from all sides, the human Wu Xiu had been defeated and was forced to retreat. Miss 4, there are too many of these beasts. We must find a way to break out. The one who spoke was a burly man holding a large saber. He waved the large saber with both hands, and with the momentum of lightning, he cut a fiery red flying python in half. At the same time, he said to a young woman not far away. This young woman was only in her 20s, and she wore a long white dress. She held a sky-blue sword in her hand, and her body exuded an innate noble temperament. Even so, this young woman had the highest cultivation in the entire human Wu Xiu's team. She had already reached the profound world realm. At this moment, the young woman was fighting with a huge demonic beast with bone wings on its back, a lion's body, and an ox's head. This demonic beast with a lion's body and an ox's head was a level 1 beast emperor. It was unusually ferocious, and the demonic energy that it erupted was like the attack of a mountain, slightly suppressing the young woman in terms of momentum. Roar! Without waiting for the young woman to respond to the burly man, the giant beast with a lion's body and an ox's head suddenly released a scarlet bloody light, and a thick, violent energy burst out. It opened its mouth wide, and streams of vigorous red cyclones quickly gathered in its mouth. In an instant, an intense, blood-red energy ball rapidly expanded. Buzz! In the next second, the blood-red energy ball shot out. The incomparably vigorous power was like a meteorite that struck from the sky. Wherever it went, the space fell into a state of distortion, and the powerful power crushed down. "Miss Four, be careful!" Along with a hurried voice, a young man donned in battle armor leaped out and stood in front of the young woman. Bang! A loud noise rang out. Light splashed everywhere, and a bloody shadow soared into the sky. A terrifying shock wave rained down on the young man like a torrent. A ring of majestic light swept out vertically. In an instant, the young man's armor was shattered and he vomited a large mouthful of blood. It seemed like he would die soon. Old Nine, the eyes of the tall and sturdy man with the large saber in his hand were about to split apart, and he was both shocked and furious at the same time. The eyes of the others were also bloodshot, and they were extremely furious. At the same time, a giant centipede that was dozens of meters long scuttled toward the young woman from the other side. The latter's expression changed slightly, and her cold eyes focused. She flipped her wrist, and the sword in her hand immediately shone brightly. The beautiful blue light seemed to be the essence of the sea. Shio! With a sharp, vibrating sound, the blue sword in her hand turned into a shadow and flew toward the giant centipede. A majestic wave of air traversed the sky, and the blue shadow was dazzling. Bang! The violent impact was extremely destructive. The blue sword shadow directly pierced through the giant centipede's head, and a dark green stench splattered out. A huge hole quickly opened up in the centipede's head. Roar! At the same time, the lion-bodied, bull-headed Beast King had already begun its next round of attacks. The mountainous body of the beast stirred up an unstoppable aura, and it rushed toward the young woman. "Miss Four, step back!" Seeing this, the tall and sturdy man with the large saber in his hand flew forward without saying a word. The veins on his arms bulged, and he raised his large saber to slash at the lion-bodied, bull-headed Beast King. Boom! The large saber, which was swallowing dazzling golden light, landed squarely on the giant, bull-headed Beast King's head. Light splashed everywhere, and the shock wave spread everywhere. A chaotic light burst forth. However, the tall and sturdy man's all-out attack only left a shallow wound on the Beast King's head, and it did not cause any substantial damage. Roar! The Beast King was infuriated. It opened its huge mouth and once again spat out a blood-red energy ball, which struck the tall and sturdy man. Bang! A mountainous impact surged forth, and the tall and sturdy man was also sent flying. He fell heavily to the ground with his saber and spat out a mouthful of blood. He had lost the ability to fight. Generally, the others were in a state of panic. The surging wave of air was like a hurricane, and the young woman flew back. As she retreated, she put her palms together, and an incomparably dazzling silver starlight blossomed between her hands. The incomparably beautiful silver light patterns interweaved into arcs of spirit vines that circled around the woman's body. Her long hair and dress fluttered in the wind, and an extremely restless power erupted from her body. Then she quickly separated her palms, and a crescent moon-shaped stream of light flew out and took shape. "What's that?" Chu Hen, who had rushed over a second ago, happened to see this scene. He looked at the crescent-shaped flying shuttle condensed in the woman's palms in surprise. This was the 4th level of the 7-star scripture, a martial art of the Migres chapter. Chu Hen couldn't be more familiar with this. This was without a doubt the power of 7 stars. Could she be a descendant of the 7 souls' ancient kingdom? Just as Chu Hen was in a state of shock, the young woman raised her beautiful eyes, and the starlight she released was like the sun in the sky. She moved her palms, and the crescent-shaped flying shuttle between her palms immediately shot out. Migres shuttle, sun, and moon chaser. Hiss! The rapid, wind-breaking sound pierced the eardrums, and the extremely lethal flying shuttle was like a divine rainbow piercing through the sky. The Beast King with the lion's body and bull's head immediately revealed a look of intense shock. It couldn't dodge, and under its terrified gaze, the crescent-shaped flying shuttle, which had grown by nearly 1/2 meter, directly smashed into its head. Blood rained down and light flashed. Whoa! Accompanied by a short howl, the Beast Emperor's huge head was immediately split into two, split open from the middle. Red and white liquid flew everywhere. The woman's aura was extraordinary after killing the Beast King. However, the death of a Beast King did not give them any hope of turning the tables. Roar! Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, a rhinoceros covered in golden light charged towards the young woman. This golden rhinoceros was also a powerful Beast King, and the demonic aura it emitted was much stronger than that of the Beast King with the lion's body and bull's head. It stepped through the air, stirring up waves of rolling thunder. As it charged towards the young woman, the body of the golden rhinoceros rapidly expanded, and in an instant it grew from dozens of meters tall to hundreds of meters tall. Its entire body shone with golden light, as if it was made of bronze and was impregnable. It came with such ferocity that even a mountain would not be able to withstand its charge. Fourth young mistress? The few people present were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. However, they did not have the ability to stop it and could only watch helplessly. Under the pressure of the terrifying aura, the young woman's eyes showed signs of panic. Bang! A loud noise was heard, and blood splattered everywhere. Waves of air filled the air. Everyone's pupils trembled violently, and their faces were filled with deep shock. The scene of the young woman dying in their imagination did not materialize. She remained unscathed in her original spot, while the terrifyingly powerful golden rhinoceros's head was pierced through by a 10-meter-wide black sword aura. What? Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Bang! In an instant, the golden rhinoceros, which was known for its defensive capabilities, crashed into the ground like a palace. The ground cracked, and a giant pit was formed. In the blink of an eye, the rhinoceros was reduced to a corpse. Before everyone could recover from their shock, a young silhouette drew a series of blurry shadows in the air. He flew directly into the crowd of beasts, and his body exploded with a monstrous amount of sword aura. 1 sword deity, 10,000 swords calamity. Swoosh, swoosh! In an instant, countless black sword silhouettes were released from the young silhouette's body. The powerful sword auras rained down like rain, all of them slashing towards the surrounding beasts. Slash! Hiss! The sound of flesh and blood being pierced by sharp weapons interweaved into a cheerful symphony. The powerful sword auras pierced through the ferocious beasts one after another, as if they were chopping vegetables. In an instant, blood-curdling screams were heard, and blood rained down from the sky. Chapter 702. Chi! Hiss! The powerful sword rays that emitted a shocking sharpness were like rain as they continuously pierced through the bodies of demon beasts one after another. Blood rained down from the sky as horrifying and shrill cries sounded out continuously. The group of demon beasts that were emitting a ferocious aura earlier were now directly reduced to meat on the chopping block, and they didn't have the slightest resistance before Chu Hen. The few human wuxiu present were completely dumbstruck by the scene before their eyes. What martial technique is this? Isn't it too domineering? In just a short span of a few blinks of an eye, the few tens of demon beasts were completely annihilated. Swish! After the crisis was resolved, the few of them successively descended to the ground. General Li, how are you? Quick! Take this great restore pill. 2 of them first ran to the robust man's side and helped him up. The robust man's injuries were obviously more severe as he held his chest with one hand, and his face was as pale as a sheet. Even so, he still took the initiative to ask about the young woman's condition. 4th young miss, are you all right? It could be seen that this 4th young miss's identity was slightly special. Only the most loyal subordinate would still care about the safety of their master under such circumstances. The young woman shook her head. "I'm fine, General Lee." Subsequently, she turned her gaze towards Chu Hen, who had descended to the ground, and revealed a grateful expression as she said, "Thank you for lending a hand, young master." "You're welcome." Chu Hen replied indifferently as he slightly raised his hand, and then he walked to the few of them and looked the young woman in the eyes as he said, "May I know young Mrs. name, and where do you live? And where is your ancestral home?" The 3 questions in a row caused all of them to be stunned. It was understandable to ask for her name and home. After all, a hero saving a damsel in distress often happened. But why did he ask for her ancestral home the moment he opened his mouth? The young woman glanced at Chu Hen with a slightly puzzled expression, and then she said, "Young master can just call me Arome. I live in Kongyu City, that's 250 miles away from here. As for my ancestral home, it's inconvenient to tell you. I hope young master can forgive me." "Inconvenient to tell?" Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and said, "Can I see your left wrist, miss?" As soon as these words were spoken, all of them were shocked in their hearts, and a trace of caution surged into the gazes they shot at Chu Hen. The young woman frowned slightly and said, "Why does young master make such a request?" "I just want to confirm it." "Confirm what?" "To confirm if you're a descendant of the 7 Souls, ancient kingdom." "Hua!" Upon hearing this, the few of them immediately tightened their grip on their weapons and guarded the young woman on both sides. "Who exactly are you?" The middle-aged man called General Lee stared at Chu Hen cautiously. The atmosphere became tense, but the young woman was much calmer. She said, "Don't be rude. All of you step down." "Fourth miss? Stop it." The young woman knew very well that with Chu Hen's strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill all of them. Since that was the case, it was better to figure out the other party's goal before coming up with a countermeasure. She looked back at Chu Hen and said, "Young master, why are you so sure that I'm a descendant of the 7 Souls, ancient kingdom?" Chu Hen smiled indifferently, and a powerful silver starlight was released from his body. He put his palms together, and a violent power surged in the center of his palms. Under the shocked gazes of the few, Chu Hen's palms slowly separated, and a crescent-shaped flying shuttle appeared. Shortly after, Chu Hen flipped his hand and pushed outwards. Xiao! With a xiao sound, the flowing light shuttle shot out explosively like a divine ray. As it moved, the crescent moon shuttle rapidly expanded. In an instant, it became 1,000 feet wide. Tearing through the air, it chopped into a mountain range. Boom! Rocks flew down like startled moths. Under the disbelieving gazes of the few, the flying shuttle directly cut off half of the mountain. How do you know the Big Dipper heavenly star technique? The young girl was finally unable to maintain her previous calmness. When she looked at Chu Hen again, her gaze seemed to have a bit more depth, but there was even more confusion. Chu Hen smiled. "Looks like I'm right. Only the imperial family of the 7 Souls Kingdom would call it the Big Dipper Heavenly Star Technique. Back in the 100 Kingdoms continent, the people of the Sacred Star Empire and the other empires called the martial art the 7-Star Scripture. Nobody knew that its real name was the Big Dipper Heavenly Star Technique." At this moment, Chu Hen was certain that the person in front of him was the descendant of the 7 Souls ancient kingdom that he was looking for. Seeing the determination in Chu Hen's eyes, the young woman knew that there was no point in continuing to hide it. She immediately nodded and said seriously, "That's right, I'm the current 4th princess of the 7 Souls Kingdom, Yen Rong, the surname Yen, the surname of the imperial family of the 7 Souls ancient kingdom." After saying that, Yen Rong extended her left hand and lifted her sleeve. On her fair wrist, there were 7 scarlet dots. The dots were arranged to form the pattern of the Big Dipper. Seeing this, Chu Hen no longer had any doubts in his heart. Just as the W Star Spirit Envoy had said, the imperial family of the 7 Souls ancient kingdom had the symbol of the Big Dipper on their wrist. This was also the only clue that the other party had given to Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen did not expect to meet a descendant of the Seven Souls ancient kingdom in the Eastern Victory continent. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in vain. I've already admitted my identity. Now it's time for you to answer my question, right? Yen Rong stared into Chu Hen's eyes. Chu Hen smiled and said, I'm someone from the 100 Kingdoms province. This Big Dipper heavenly star technique was something I learned from the ruins of the Seven Souls ancient country, the starry universe spying formation. 100 Kingdoms continent. Towards these 3 words, Yen Rong and the rest felt inexplicably distant and indescribably familiar. Then, you said that you've been looking for us? That's right. Chu Hen confirmed. Why? Someone asked me to find you before he died. More accurately, it was a remnant soul. Who is it? Yen Rong's expression became a little nervous. Chu Hen's eyes were calm without a single ripple. His throat moved slightly, and he spat out a sentence very clearly. He said that he was called the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy. He also asked me to give something to the imperial family of the Seven Souls Kingdom. What? The Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy? When they heard this, their faces were once again filled with shock. During the golden age of the Seven Souls Kingdom, there were 7 powerful star spirit envoys. The duty of the 7-star spirit envoys was to protect the 7-star spirit beads, and the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy was the leader of the 7-star spirit envoys. When the Seven Souls ancient kingdom was invaded by foreign enemies, the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy had already died in battle. Who would have thought that there would still be a remnant of his consciousness left in the starry universe formation, seeing that Chu Hen did not seem to be joking at all? Yen Rong could not help but start to believe what he said. She asked, What did the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy ask you to give us? This, with a move of Chu Hen's palm, a white light flashed, and a black box appeared in his hand. The black box was a little heavy, and the surface of the box was covered with beautiful and strange patterns. A layer of especially stable restriction energy blocked everyone's divine sense from probing it. Chapter 703. What's this? Yen Rong and the others were surprised when they saw the black box that Chu Hen took out. The box seemed to be slightly heavy. There were gorgeous and strange patterns on the surface of the box. It emitted a strong fluctuation of restriction that blocked everyone's divine consciousness. Back then, the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy entrusted this to me and asked me to pass it to the descendants of the Seven Souls ancient kingdom's imperial family. He also said that the restriction on it can only be opened by the descendants of the Seven Souls ancient kingdom. As Chu Hen spoke, he handed the black box to Yen Rong. In this way, the promise that he had made to the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy could finally come to an end. However, just as Yen Rong was about to receive it, the tall and sturdy middle-aged man, generally, said in a deep voice, Fourth Princess, King Yao has repeatedly warned us not to trust others easily. There are still others who know of our identities. The moment these words left her mouth, Yen Rong could not help but clench her fists lightly. She had a hesitant expression on her face. Indeed, this matter was a little too coincidental. This man in front of her had traveled thousands of miles from the 100 Nations continent and coincidentally met them. Moreover, the 100 Nations continent was far inferior to the Eastern Victory continent. In the former, the number of profound Earth-stage powerhouses was clear. Chu Hen was only in his 20s. It was really difficult for people to believe that he came from a small place like the 100 Nations continent. However, what was the other party's motive? Was he purposely looking for a black box to trick her? Moreover, there did not seem to be many loopholes in what Chu Hen said. Seeing Yen Rong's hesitant expression, Chu Hen raised his handsome eyebrows slightly and said with a smile, What do you think? I'll follow you to Kongyu City and hand this box to your higher-ups. The few of them were slightly stunned. They could not help but feel surprised. If Chu Hen was really a bad person, he would definitely not dare to follow them to Kongyu City. There were many powerhouses in Kongyu City. Chu Hen would not be able to play any tricks there. Of course, the reason why Chu Hen made this request was because he still needed their help to undo the restrictions on the Dubhi Astral Soul Pearl. Back in the ruins of the Seven Souls ancient kingdom, Chu Hen had agreed to this hard job because he had made a deal with the Dubhi Star Spirit Envoy. The other party had given him the Dubhi Astral Soul Pearl, and he had to help him find the descendants of the Seven Souls Kingdom. However, there was a restriction placed on the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl. It could only be used for 6 years. Once the 6 years were up, the power of the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl would seal itself. Similarly, they were the only ones who could undo the restrictions within. Seeing that there wasn't much time left in the 6 years, he could use this opportunity to ask them to help him solve the problem. Then, this matter could be considered to be a complete success. Since young master doesn't find it troublesome, then I'll be troubling you. Yen Rong didn't say anything. After all, he was once the emperor of a generation. Now that he was wandering outside and facing this chaotic and cruel world, he did not dare to rashly trust anyone. This was something that Chu Hen could understand. Generally, pack up and get ready to go back. Yen Rong turned around and said to the burly man behind her, "Yes, fourth princess." Then the burly man and a few others looked around to check the situation. This time, it could be said that they had suffered heavy casualties. There were more than 20 people when they came, but now there were only 5 or 6 left. If it wasn't for Chu Hen's timely appearance, they would all have died here. Even so, they did not dare to trust Chu Hen completely. Of course, they had their own reasons for doing so. Looking at the human Wu Xiao and the demon corpses all over the ground, Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly. To be honest, this was the outer area of the mountain range. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be such a large number of beasts here. Moreover, there were 2 beast emperors, which was even more confusing. By the way, young master, may I know your name? Yen Rong realized that she still did not know his name. Chu Hen. Young Master Chu. Then they left the place and headed towards the direction of Kongyu City. Perhaps because she felt that she had wronged Chu Hen, Yen Rong behaved more politely during the rest of the journey. Chu Hen also politely asked about the current situation of the Seven Spirits Kingdom. From Yen Rong, he found out that after the Seven Spirits Kingdom fell, many experts escaped. Those experts escorted the descendants of the royal family and preserved the royal bloodline of the Seven Spirits Kingdom. Then they left the 100 Nations province and came to the victorious East Province. With the help of many loyal subjects and death servants, the Seven Souls Empire gradually recovered its strength after nearly 200 years. Moreover, it slowly gained a firm foothold in the Eastern Victory region. Now the Seven Spirits Kingdom has temporarily changed its name to the Seven Spirits Palace. We have a few strongholds in the victorious East Province, and Kongyu City is one of them. My royal uncle Yao Guang is in charge of it, Yen Rong said roughly. Chu Hen nodded to show that he was listening. Since the Seven Spirits Kingdom has already developed, why haven't we returned to the 100 Nations province? Yen Rong shook her head and said, "It's true that the Seven Spirits Palace is growing stronger day by day, but there's still a small gap between us and the peak of the Seven Spirits Kingdom. Moreover, before we return, we must eliminate all the enemies who invaded our country." When she said this, there was a trace of cold hatred in Yen Rong's eyes. One could imagine that most of the descendants of the Seven Spirits Kingdom had lived in hatred for the past few years. This was perhaps the reason why they did not dare to trust strangers so easily. Cough, cough. At this moment, the burly middle-aged man coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of dark blood. General Li, Yen Rong turned around and looked at him. "No, it's fine. Let's continue on our way." It could be seen that this burly man was quite strong-willed. However, he had been injured by the Beast Emperor and his internal organs were damaged. Although he had supported himself along the way, he could not stop his injuries from acting up. Yen Rong sighed softly and said, Let's rest for a while before we continue." Then, under Yen Rong's signal, the other two guards helped him to a tree by the side of the road to sit down and rest. Yen Rong said to Chu Hen apologetically, "I'm sorry, young Master Chu." "It's fine." Chu Hen smiled. However, just as he finished speaking, a dangerous aura suddenly attacked in their direction. Buzz! A wave of rolling thunder appeared in the sky, and a bright red pillar of light descended from the sky. It was like a startling light that shocked the heavens, and it carried dense killing intent as it smashed towards Yen Rong. "Miss Yen Rong, be careful!" Chu Hen shouted loudly, extending his left palm. He directly grabbed onto Yen Rong's shoulder. Following that, his figure moved, pulling her along as he flew backwards. Boom! In the next moment, the ground where Yen Rong had been a second ago suddenly caved in, forming a huge pit. The violent force spread out in all directions like a torrent. Dust flew everywhere, and rocks splashed everywhere along with the surging airwaves. Bang, bang! General Li and the two guards next to him were sent flying by the powerful airwaves. They rolled on the ground for more than 10 times before they could stop. However, Yen Rong was under Chu Hen's protection, so she was unharmed. Then, a series of rapid, wind-breaking auras came. More than 10 beams of light pierced through the air and landed in a flash, setting off a sharp chill. "Hee, Princess Yen Rong, what a coincidence. We meet again!" An evil and strange laughter rang out. The one who spoke was a young man who exuded an evil aura. He was dressed in a white brocade robe with a red flame cloud pattern on the left side of his chest. Yen Rong's pretty face changed as she clenched her fists. Chapter 704. "It's you scum from the Heavenly Cloud Manor again," General Li scolded angrily. Chu Hen's heart was startled. He lifted his eyelids and revealed a surprised expression. Back then, the Seven Souls Nation was the overlord of the 100 nations. Not only did they have many experts, they also had the 7-star soul pearls. The 5 factions that joined forces to attack the Seven Souls Nation were the Shura sect, the Illusory Rain sect, the Otherworldly Spirit sect, the Immortal Pavilion, and the Heavenly Cloud Manor. The first 3 were the local first-rate sects of the 100 Nations continent. The Immortal Pavilion and the Heavenly Cloud Manor were factions outside the continent. However, Chu Hen did not know which region they were from. From the looks of it, it was most likely in the continent of East Victory, back then after the 5 factions joined forces to destroy the Seven Souls Nation. They even took away the national treasure, the 7-star soul pearl. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red. Furthermore, looking at the current situation, it seemed that before Chu Hen's arrival, there seemed to have been a conflict between the two parties, big or small. The dozen people from the Heavenly Cloud Manor exuded a powerful aura, especially the evil-looking man who had just spoken. His cultivation had reached the 2nd level of the Earth Profound Realm. He glanced sideways at Yen Rong and the others and said with a playful smile, "You guys are really lucky. You guys are really lucky. So many demonic beasts, and yet you guys weren't completely wiped out." Yen Rong clenched her fist and said with a cold gaze, "Duan Chao, you've already obtained the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token. What else do you want?" The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token? A hint of surprise flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. He thought to himself that before he arrived, Yen Rong's side must have had a conflict with the Heavenly Cloud Manor over the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token. Then it was likely that the Heavenly Cloud Manor set up a trap and caused the demonic beasts to attack Yen Rong's group. In the chaos, the Heavenly Cloud Manor retreated first and stayed behind to lay in ambush. They waited for their enemy to be exhausted and then killed the few that slipped through the net. The truth was indeed not much different from what Chu Hen had guessed. The sinister man called Duan Chao stared at Yen Rong's pretty face with a mocking expression. He rubbed his chin with one hand and said with a smile, "Princess Yen Rong's question is really strange. Do I need to say more about the great enmity between your Seven Souls Palace and my heavenly Cloud Manor? Since I've met all of you here today, if I don't eliminate all of you, it would be a waste of a great opportunity given to me by the heavens. He, bastard! General Lee roared angrily. You bastards do despicable and shameless things. Humph! A dying dog can only bark a few times before it breathes its last. Duan Chao smiled disdainfully, then looked at Yenrong and said with a strange smile, Your Highness, should you kill yourself? Or should I do it myself? I don't know what it means to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. If I were to make a move, it would be hard to guarantee that your precious body would remain intact after death. Disgusting! Yenrong cursed coldly. At this moment, Chu Hen, who had been silent all this while, took a few steps forward. He did not move, but the moment he moved, he exuded a dangerous aura that was difficult to ignore. Duan Chao frowned slightly. Who are you? When Chu Hen had saved Yenrong, Duan Chao had noticed him. However, he had only thought that he was a guard from the Seven Souls Palace and did not take him seriously. At this moment, he could vaguely sense that there was something unusual about Chu Hen. I'm just a nobody, I won't tell you my name, Chu Hen said with a faint smile. You're not from the Seven Souls Palace? Duan Chao asked in a low voice. Chu Hen did not answer. Instead, he extended his left hand towards the other party. Give it to me! What are you playing at? Heaven and Earth Black Yellow Order. Then you can leave. As soon as he said this, even Yenrong and the others were stunned. It had to be said that the aura that Chu Hen exuded was really powerful. His calm words were filled with an irresistible, domineering aura. Humph! Duan Chao sneered and said disdainfully, Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Kill them. Yes. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the experts from the Heavenly Cloud Manor burst out with a powerful aura and charged towards Chu Hen, Yenrong, and the others without saying a word. Everyone's aura was like that of wolves and tigers, surging with killing intent. Whoosh! Yenrong summoned an aqua-blue sword into her palm and raised it to meet the enemy. General Li and the others behind her also joined the battle with injuries. Light and shadows flew everywhere, and true essence flew everywhere. A chaotic battle immediately broke out. One of the fierce-looking men, who had reached the first level of the Earth's profound realm, directly charged towards Chu Hen. A monstrous, majestic aura burst out of his body. I've seen arrogant people, but I usually kill people like you with a single punch. Roar! The fierce-looking man's eyes were filled with killing intent, and he threw a punch at Chu Hen. The red airwaves quickly merged and rotated. An opponent's entire arm immediately turned into a dark red shadow of a ferocious dragon. The incomparably furious pressure was comparable to that of a flood dragon coming out of the sea. This punch was enough to pierce through a mountain. Die! A piercingly cold wind poured down, but Chu Hen's expression did not change. He unhurriedly stretched out his left palm. Bang! A muffled sound reverberated through the air, and the fierce-looking man's aura was instantly suppressed to its lowest point. The moment it came into contact with Chu Hen's palm energy, the dark red dragon image that covered the man's arm was instantly shattered and destroyed. The fist energy that was enough to split mountains and split the earth seemed to have fallen into a quagmire, and there was not the slightest fluctuation of energy. Chu Hen held the opponent's fist with one hand, like a rock, and did not move even half a step. What? The fierce-looking man's pupils trembled, and he turned pale with fright. Amidst the shock, he raised his left fist again, and a dazzling red light burst out, smashing towards Chu Hen's chest. However, Chu Hen did not give him the chance to punch a second time. Wang. The space trembled, and Chu Hen's palm suddenly rose. The spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth gathered at the center of his palm, transforming into a black and white yin and yang vortex that rapidly rotated. Within the ferocious might, there was an obscure hidden force, yin-yang empty palm. Bang! The fierce power was like a mountain, and the Yin force was like a tide. Chu Hen's palm gently fell on the opponent's chest. The fierce-looking man's bones were broken, his internal organs were shattered, and his body was directly penetrated. The opponent fell heavily to the ground, vomiting blood. His head tilted without a sound, and he could not be more dead. Killing an expert at the profound world realm with a flip of his hand, the faces of the people of Heavenly Cloud Manor changed dramatically. A cold light surged in Duan Chao's eyes, and the true energy outside his body soared into the sky. He raised his hand and blasted towards Chu Hen. "Bastard! How dare you kill people of my Heavenly Cloud Manor?" Buzz, the violent and restless true energy, gathered towards Duan Chao's palms. In the next moment, 2 balls of hot flames rose directly from his palms. Fire Cloud Palm. The scorching and vigorous heat wave came head-on, and the space was scorched and distorted. Behind Duan Chao, the monstrous true energy, directly appeared a huge shadow of a flame cloud, and the pressure of the second order of the profound world realm whistled like a stormy sea. In the face of such a majestic palm, Chu Hen's expression was still the same, without the slightest hint of panic. Just like before, he faced the opponent's palm with his bare hands. Bright, silver divine light gathered and bloomed in Chu Hen's palms, and the power was shocking, like the brilliance of the stars and the moon. Bang! The 4 palms collided, and a vast, surging wave of light immediately spilled out from between the two. The strong airflow rolled up the rocks on the ground and swept them in all directions. Duan Chao's body trembled, and he only felt his arms go numb, and his entire body was sent flying. "You!" Duan Chao's face was ashen as he flew back 100 meters. He stared in disbelief at Chu Hen, who still hadn't taken half a step back. At this moment, he suddenly understood that the seemingly ordinary young man in front of him was actually a tiger in disguise. If they continued to tangle with him, it was likely that all of them would die here today. Retreat. Without any hesitation, Duan Chao immediately understood the current situation and directly chose to retreat. The people of the Heavenly Cloud Manor also didn't hesitate, and one after another, like swallows returning from their nest, they flew towards the sky in a gliding manner. Just as Chu Hen was about to give chase, a black tide suddenly surged in the horizon in front of him. Waves of air overflowed the heavens, and countless dazzling silver rays of light blossomed in the horizon like stars and suns. "Since you're already here, then leave your lives behind." A thunderclap shook the sky and the earth. A powerful silhouette darted over like a beam of divine light. Yan Rong, General Li, and the others' eyes lit up with joy. Chapter 705. "It's His Royal Highness, the Third Prince!" General Li and the others' eyes lit up, and their faces were filled with surprise. Yan Rong's eyes were also filled with joy, and her face was filled with unconcealable joy. The black tide surged, the airwaves were monstrous, and the silver splendor blotted out the sky like stars blooming in the sky. A figure with a peerless aura shot over like a divine ray of light. Duan Chao and the others from the Heavenly Cloud Manor were shocked. Just Chu Hen alone was enough to cause them to have bloody noses and swollen faces. And now there was another one. Swoosh! The figure was extremely fast, like the wind and lightning. It arrived in front of the people from the Heavenly Cloud Manor, like a meteor chasing the moon. Bang, 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 a series of muffled explosions spread in the void. The figure was like the light of death, and it penetrated the bodies of several experts from the Heavenly Cloud Manor. Ah! Scarlet blood rained down from the sky, and a disc-sized bloody hole appeared in the center of those people's chests. Their sternum and internal organs were all crushed to pieces. Amidst the short and hurried shrill screams, the few of them were like birds with broken wings, quickly falling from the sky. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he looked up. It was a young man, like Yan Rong. He exuded an innate aristocratic aura. However, unlike Yan Rong, his aura was much colder, and he gave off the feeling that he was like a sharp saber that was showing off its edge. This person's body was surrounded by a dazzling silver holy light. He wore a warrior's heavy armor, and he carried the army destroyer saber on his back. In his hand he held a gleaming dagger. The saber was carried on his back, and he held the dagger in his hand. Most of these people were brave and ruthless. They were a very dangerous kind of people. This was Chu Hen's first impression of the third prince. This person's cultivation had reached the third level of the Earth Profound Realm, and he completely suppressed Duan Chao and the others from the heavenly Cloud Manor. After killing several people, the third prince did not stop. He directly rushed to the next person, and the dagger in his hand shone with a dazzling light. Hiss! The man's pupils constricted violently. In the next second, a thin red line rapidly thickened on his neck and then gushed out like a fountain. Bastard! The other person was enraged. He turned his palm into a claw and tore through the air, aiming for the third prince's throat like a bolt of lightning. Die! Humph! A scornful sneer appeared on the third prince's face. He waved his hand backhandedly, and a bright and beautiful silver arc of light swept through the air like lightning. Chi! Blood rained down, and broken fingers flew everywhere. The man from the heavenly Cloud Manor was so furious that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. All 5 fingers on his hand had been cut off by the dagger. Whoop! Ah! An unprecedented terror spread across that person's face. At the next second, the third prince waved his dagger again. The sharp blade cut the person into 2 from the middle, as if he was slicing through a clay figurine. The ferocious, beast-like cruel scene shocked the audience. The third prince killed the people from the heavenly Cloud Manor in a crushing manner. In the blink of an eye, Duan Chao was the only one left. The latter's face was full of fear. Without any hesitation, he increased his speed to the maximum and turned around to escape. Whoosh! However, when Duan Chao was less than a kilometer away, a giant net soared into the sky like a shocking wave, turning into a sky curtain in front of Duan Chao. Duan Chao, who was caught off guard, was like a bird that had fallen into a trap. He directly plunged into the giant net. Ah! A furious roar came from Duan Chao's mouth. It was actually a giant fish scale net, covered with densely packed sharp fish scale blades. Duan Chao, who was completely unprepared, was instantly pierced by the blades on the net, causing him to be covered in cuts and bruises. Swoosh, then! More than a dozen figures in heavy armor with fierce auras flew up from below and blocked Duan Chao's way from all directions. Seeing that there was no way out, Duan Chao's eyes turned fierce, and he roared ferociously, "Yan Yunan, what can I do for you?" A cold and gentle voice entered Duan Chao's ears. The other party's aura was very close to him. Duan Chao's pupils that had shrunk to the size of a needle point suddenly reflected the third prince's cold face. "I'll fight you!" Bang! Before he could finish his words, the sharp dagger pierced through Duan Chao's heart along with the third prince's arm. A series of blood splattered as the hand that held the dagger directly pierced through Duan Chao's back. Such a ruthless method sent chills down one's spine. Duan Chai's hands trembled as he grabbed the third prince's clothes tightly. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness and hatred. His entire face had turned dark red. "You, humph!" The corner of Yan Yunan's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. "Still have some last words?" You! In the next moment, Duan Chao collapsed like a pile of mud and hung powerlessly on Yan Yunan's arm. Subsequently, Yan Yunan withdrew his arm, and Duan Chao, who had lost his support, fell from the sky and smashed heavily onto the ground. There was no sign of life. A wave of annihilation was completed in an instant. Yan Yunan's strength and methods could be said to be frightening. They felt genuine fear. Swoosh! Swoosh! Immediately, Yan Yunan and the dozen or so experts in heavy armor descended in a flash. At the same time, Yan Rong generally and the others arrived with Chu Hen. Third brother. Yen Rong's eyes flashed with surprise. Your Highness. General Li and the others also bowed respectfully. Yen Yunan turned around and glanced at them. His eyes were filled with displeasure. After all, when Yen Rong and the others left Kongyu City, there were more than 20 people. Now, there were so many casualties. Who are you? Yen Yunan's gaze stopped on Chu Hen. Third brother, let me introduce. This is young Master Chu Hen. When we were surrounded by beasts in Tiger Cage Valley, it was young Master Chu Hen who saved us. Yen Rong said hurriedly. Chu Hen nodded politely and cupped his fists. I am Chu Hen. Greetings. Third prince of the Seven Souls Nation. Seven Souls Nation? Hearing these 3 words, Yen Yunan could not help but frown. To outsiders, the Seven Souls Nation was a secret that they did not know. Apart from the Heavenly Cloud Manor and the Immortal Pavilion, the people in the victorious East State did not know. They only knew that they were from the Seven Souls Palace. Yen Yunan knew very well that Yen Rong wouldn't casually spread this kind of news. Third brother, listen to me first. This young master, Chu, came from the 100 Kingdom State, and he has seen the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy. Oh! Yen Yunan's eyes turned cold. The Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy had died in battle long ago. How could he have seen him? But immediately after, Yen Rong began to narrate everything that had happened after she met Chu Hen in full detail, from beginning to end. Everyone was astonished after listening to her. Yen Yunan squinted his eyes and looked at Chu Hen with deep meaning, as if he was half believing and half doubting. Where are you from in the 100 Kingdom State? I grew up in the Sacred Star Dynasty. Chu Hen replied calmly. A cold light flashed in Yen Yunan's eyes. He extended his hand to Chu Hen and said, Give me that box. The other party's tone was not very good. There was not even a hint of gratitude. Although Chu Hen was dissatisfied, he was not a person who liked to fuss over small things. He took out the black box and handed it to the other party. Yen Yunan took the box and looked at it seriously. Then he kept it in his pocket. Your mission is complete. You can go now. If an ordinary person heard this, they would definitely not be able to hold back their anger. This person came from far away to hand you something. Forget about not thanking him. He should at least be nice. Yen Rong quickly advised, Third brother, don't be like this. Mr. Chu Hen has helped us so much. We should be thanking him. Then she looked at Chu Hen and said, Mr. Chu, don't be angry. My third brother's temper has always been like this. Because you are from the Sacred Star Dynasty, so you know the reason. But that is the Sacred Star Dynasty's royal family's business. It has nothing to do with you. Please don't take it to heart. After the Seven Spirits Kingdom was defeated by the 5 major sects, it suffered a great loss. Later on, the Sacred Star Dynasty, the Misty Wind Dynasty, the Giant Rock Dynasty, the Sword Dynasty, and so on. Various dynasties and countries divided the Seven Spirits Kingdom. Although the Seven Spirits Kingdom had already fallen, the actions of the various dynasties still made the descendants of the Seven Spirits Kingdom resentful. After all, that situation was like hitting someone when they were down. Of course, not to mention Chu Hen, even his foster father, Long Zhan, and his foster grandfather, General Long Bo, who had taken him in, were not born yet. No matter how he looked at it, this debt could not be placed on Chu Hen's head. Yen Yunan's attitude towards Chu Hen was indeed a little unreasonable. However, Yen Rong came out in time to understand the situation, which made it difficult for Chu Hen to say anything. He smiled and said, It's fine, Chu Hen thought to himself. It did not matter if the other party thanked him or not. After all, this was a deal. After the restriction on the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl was removed, he would leave. From then on, he would no longer have anything to do with the Seven Spirits Kingdom. Third prince, this was found on Duan Chao. A young guard handed a fan-shaped, dark gold token to Yen Yunan. The latter took it and kept it in his storage ring without even looking at it. Although Yunnan seemed to have taken the token as a precaution, it was not a big deal. Chapter 706. Kongyu City. After a short interlude with the heavenly cloud manor, Chu Hen arrived at Kongyu City under the lead of Yen Rong and the others. This was indeed a large and prosperous city with a large population. Compared to the Shanghai city that he had visited before, it was even more so. Because of the heaven and earth black-yellow order, many places in the Victory East State had gathered a large number of people. However, Kongyu City was a lot quieter. The streets were bustling with people, but it was not chaotic. Kongyu City's environment is not bad. Chu Hen muttered to himself in surprise. Yen Rong smiled and said, "That's right. Because Kongyu City is jointly managed by a few factions, there are guards patrolling every day. Outsiders rarely come here to cause trouble." "Does the Seven Soul Palace participate in the management as well?" Chu Hen asked casually. "Yes." Yen Rong nodded. "Our Seven Soul Palace is quite popular here, second only to the City Lord Manor." When Yen Rong said that, there was a hint of contentment between her brows. Chu Hen also secretly praised them in his heart. The Seven Spirits country was indeed worthy of being the overlord dynasty of the 100 Nations region. Even though they had been destroyed, they were still able to rise day by day in the victorious East region, where the competition was even more intense. It was obvious how vast the Seven Soul Kingdom's heritage was. It was no wonder that the Shura sect, the Illusory Rain sect, and the Otherworldly Spirit sect would join forces with the Heavenly Cloud Manor and the Immortal Pavilion to attack the Seven Soul Kingdom. With the Seven Soul Kingdom's immense strength, it was only a matter of time before they conquered the entire 100 Nations. The main reason why those sects did so was not because of the 7 Star Soul Pearls, but because they were afraid that the Seven Soul Kingdom would one day annihilate the sects, sweep through the various countries, and unify the province. Chu Hen thought to himself, the 5 major sects each had a Star Soul Pearl. The Dubhi Star Soul Pearl was in his hands, while the Alcade Star Soul Pearl was rumored to have gone missing. From the looks of it, the Alcade Star Soul Pearl was most likely with them. He still remembered that back in the Hidden Wind region, Li Wushang had suggested that he try to collect the 7 Star Soul Pearls. Now that such a long time had passed, apart from his own Dubhi Astral Soul Pearl, he had yet to obtain any other Dubhi Astral Soul Pearl. Of course, Chu Hen was not particularly concerned about this matter. After all, Chu Hen had not been idle from the beginning to the end. The continuous stream of things had left Chu Hen with no time to think about anything else. Walking on the bustling street, the surrounding people all looked at Yunnan, Yen Rong, and the others in awe. In Kongyu City, the Seven Souls Palace was second only to the City Lord Palace. Furthermore, the Seven Soul Palace had strongholds in other parts of the eastern Victory State. It had to be said that under the pressure of reviving their country, the descendants of the Seven Spirits Kingdom had done everything they could to strengthen their strength. Sometimes hatred could speed up a person's growth. This sentence was not without reason. However, Yunnan's cold and ferocious aura made Chu Hen slightly uncomfortable. Because of Yen Rong, Chu Hen didn't care about it. In any case, he wouldn't have anything to do with the Seven Souls Palace in the future. Once he finished what he wanted to do, he wouldn't owe each other anything, and they would go their separate ways. Soon, everyone arrived at the Seven Souls Palace. There were 2 stone chelants that were 3 meters tall outside the majestic palace gate. A few armored guards with spears in their hands guarded the 2 sides of the gate. When the guards saw Yunnan and the others, they quickly went up to them, respectfully. "Third young master, 4th young lady, you're back." When they were outside, everyone called them young master and young lady. However, the people in the palace called them prince and princess. This was an unwritten rule in the entire Seven Souls Palace. Yunnan waved his hand and signaled everyone to leave. After that, everyone entered the palace. After stepping into the Seven Souls Palace, Chu Hen instantly felt enlightened. The environment inside was completely different from what he saw from the outside. The luxurious jade palaces displayed the aristocratic aura of the royal family. There were carved railings and jade walls, vermilion stone pillars, glazed bricks, and waterside pavilions. The layout here was exactly the same as the imperial palace. It was obvious that although the Seven Souls Palace was a palace on the surface, its heart belonged to the Seven Souls Kingdom. Relying on the heritage that was left behind, the Seven Souls Palace had developed quite well these few years. They even had the ability to occupy a place in the Victory East region. Chu Hen nodded to himself. From the looks of it, the Seven Souls Kingdom really had hope of recovering. At the same time, Chu Hen couldn't help but be curious. What was in the black box that the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy left for them? Was it a bargaining chip to recover the kingdom? But very quickly, Chu Hen felt relieved. Whether the Seven Souls Kingdom could recover or not, it seemed to have nothing to do with him. Third Prince, Fourth Princess, you're back. At this moment, an old man dressed like a manager walked out from the inner palace. Uncle Win, go and invite Uncle to the Righteous Virtue Palace. Tell him that an important guest has arrived. Yen Rong spoke first. Important guest? The old man looked at Chu Hen, who was behind Yen Rong, with a bit of astonishment. Shortly after, he nodded his head and walked towards the inner mansion with his back turned. The third prince, Yan Yunan's lips curled up slightly, as if he was mocking him. In his opinion, asking Uncle to come over for such a small matter was too flattering for Chu Hen. Of course, Yan Yunan wouldn't say what he was thinking. After a while, in a magnificent and luxurious palace. The layout of the palace revealed the style of the royal family. It was luxurious and dignified. Mr. Chu, please have some tea. Thank you. Chu Hen faintly smiled. After a while, there was a series of steady footsteps coming from outside the door. Then, a few figures stepped into the palace. The leader was tall and slender. He wore a dark golden robe and had a jade crown on his head. There was a majestic aura between his brows. I heard that a guest has arrived? The middle-aged man said loudly, Uncle. Yen Rong called out softly. This person was none other than the Alcade monarch, Yen Tsushan. Yen Tsushan was the manager of this place. He had a strong cultivation base. From the moment he stepped through the door, Chu Hen felt an invisible pressure from him. His strength had already reached the 4th level of the Earth Profound Realm. Uncle, this is Mr. Chu Hen from the 100 Kingdoms. Yen Rong introduced. Oh. Yen Tsushan raised his eyebrows and looked at Chu Hen in surprise. Chu Hen cupped his fists and said politely, Junior Chu Hen greets the Alcade monarch. From the way Chu Hen addressed him and Yen Rong's behavior, Yen Tsushan could guess that he already knew about the Seven Souls Palace and Seven Souls Kingdom. There was no need to hide. May I know why this little brother is here? Uncle, let me say it. It's like this. Yen Rong immediately repeated what she had said to Yen Yunan outside the city. After Yen Tsushan heard it, he was very surprised and asked excitedly, Where is the box? It's with third brother. Yunan. Yen Tsushan looked at Yen Yunan, and the latter nodded. He then took out the box and passed it to him. Yen Tsushan could not wait to take it. He frowned and stared at the mysterious runes on the box seriously. Yen Tsushan's expression became more and more serious. Under his inspection, the black box would emit waves of obscure energy from time to time. After half a cup of tea's time, the other party did not seem to be able to find a way to open the box. He then said to a servant behind him, Send this to Master Mu? Yes. The servant nodded and promised. However, before he could take the black box, an old voice came from outside without any warning. No need, I'm here. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Then a hunchbacked old man hobbled in with a walking stick in hand. This was a skinny old man with a haggard face. He had white hair and wrinkled skin like tree bark. He gave off a feeling that he would die in the next second. However, when Chu Hen saw such an old man for the first time, an indescribable palpitation surged out from his heart. Chu Hen was 100% sure that under this old man's skin was not an ordinary person. Quickly after, the old man looked straight at Chu Hen. 2 rays of sharp light shot out from his muddy old eyes. I can feel the aura of the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl. It's with you, right? What? Dubhe Star Soul Pearl? As soon as those words were spoken, everyone's faces changed. Their gazes all fell onto Chu Hen. Chapter 707. I can feel the aura of the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl. It's with you, right? Indifferent, yet incomparably certain words were spat out from the old man's mouth. The faces of everyone in the hall changed as they stared back at Chu Hen in shock. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he also had a surprised look on his face. What surprised Chu Hen even more was that he could vaguely feel an indescribably familiar aura from the old man. This aura was actually somewhat similar to the Dubhe Star Soul Envoy he saw in the ruins of the Seven Souls Kingdom. The old man looked up at Chu Hen and continued, "Let me introduce myself. My surname is Mu. Back then, everyone called me the Alcade Star Soul Envoy." What? Alcade Star Soul Envoy? When these words came out, Chu Hen was even more shocked. The Alcade Star Soul Envoy was still alive? This was really surprising. No wonder the other party looked like he was about to die. He was an old monster who had lived for 200 to 300 years on the path of the martial Tao. One had to seize the fortune of heaven and earth and fuse the power of all things. When one reached a certain level, one could avoid death and prolong life. Experts at the profound world realm had their own true origin violet palace that could contain the spirit energy of all things in the world. Compared to ordinary humans, it was not difficult to have an extra few hundred years of life. Back then, the 5 major sects joined forces to attack the Seven Souls Kingdom. 6 of the 7 great star soul envoys died in battle, and only this Alcade Star Soul Envoy escaped the 100 Kingdoms with the descendant bloodline of the imperial family, because the 7 star soul pearls were connected, and this old man was the guardian of the Alcade Star Soul Pearl. Therefore, he was especially sensitive to the aura of the other star soul pearls. Seeing the puzzled gazes of the crowd, Chu Hen's face did not show any signs of panic. This heavenly pivot star soul pearl was not snatched by him, nor was it stolen by him. So what if the other party saw through it? Senior Mu is right. The Dubhe Star Soul Pearl is indeed with me. Hua! Seeing that Chu Hen had admitted it, Yan Qishan, Yan Yunan, Yan Rong, and the others' expressions changed again. The latter asked in a deep voice, "How could it be? Why didn't you tell me before?" Chu Hen smiled and said, "This is the reason why I followed you to Kongyu City." "Oh! To tell you the truth, this is a deal I made with the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy." Immediately, Chu Hen told him everything that had happened after he encountered the remnant consciousness of the Dubhe Star Spirit Envoy in the Starry Universe, spying formation. The other party gave the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to him, and he helped him find a descendant of the 7 Spirits country. Only by personally handing the black box into the hands of the descendants of the 7 Spirits Kingdom would Chu Hen be able to ask them to remove the restriction on the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl. After listening to Chu Hen's explanation, the few of them suddenly understood. The Alcade King, Yan Qishan, couldn't help but exchange a glance with Elder Mu. A cold light flashed across the corner of his eyes. "Hey!" The third prince, Yan Yunan, laughed coldly and said frivolously, "I was wondering why you would be so kind as to send the item from the 100 Kingdoms continent to the victorious East continent. So you have an ulterior motive." "Yunan, don't be rude," Yan Qishan shouted. Yan, Yunan didn't think much of it. In this case, the 7 Spirits Kingdom didn't owe Chu Hen anything. In his eyes, the value of the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl was far more than what the other party had done. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly but he wasn't angry. This indeed had nothing to do with kindness. It was just a trade mission. The Alcade Star spirit envoy let out a sigh of relief. He first glanced at the black box in Yen Chushan's hand and slowly said, "The restriction on it is indeed a unique sealing technique of our seven spirits kingdom." This sentence undoubtedly confirmed the truth of what Chu Hen said. He then said to Chu Hen calmly, "Bring the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl over." "Thank you, Senior." Chu Hen nodded his head. With a thought, a bright silver holy radiance was released from his left palm. The dazzling radiance blossomed and filled the entire hall. Buzz! In the next instant, the holy radiance quickly disappeared. A brilliant silver light pearl lay in Chu Hen's palm. This light pearl seemed to be condensed from the essence of the stars. There was a pattern of the Big Dipper inside, and the star in the Dubhe position was the most eye-catching. "It really is the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl." Yen Qishan's eyes were burning with excitement. Yen Yunan and Yen Rong's faces were also surging with unconcealable emotions. Elder Mu took the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl from Chu Hen's hands without batting an eyelid. His wrinkled face was filled with excitement. "It will take 2 days to undo the restriction inside. Little brother, you can stay here for the time being." "All right. Sorry to trouble you, Senior." Chu Hen replied politely. "Little Rong, arrange a place for little brother to stay. Don't neglect our esteemed guest." Even though Yen Rong was the 4th princess of the Seven Souls country, Elder Mu was definitely an elder with the highest status. With his status, he had the right to call Yen Rong a little girl. "Yes, Elder Mu." Yen Rong nodded her head and said to Chu Hen, "Young Master Chu, please follow me." Chu Hen nodded his head and cupped his fists at Elder Mu and Yen Qishan. Then he followed Yen Rong out of the hall and towards the guest house. After the two of them left, the atmosphere in the hall immediately became a lot more restless. "Ha ha ha ha." Elder Mu held the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl with one hand and laughed. "The heavens are really helping the Seven Souls country. I didn't expect the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to return to us after so many years." The light-shaking realms, Yen Chushan's face was also filled with excitement. "The most important thing is what's inside." He looked at the black box in his hand and said. The third prince, Yen Yunan, squinted his eyes and asked, "Elder Mu, uncle, do you mean that you don't intend to return the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to him?" "Yunan, you're still too young." Elder Mu held the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl as though he was holding a star. He said, "There are no restrictions on the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl." "What? No restrictions?" "Then what did he say just now?" Yen Yunan was stunned. Then he raised his eyebrows and suddenly understood. "I see. Everything was clear now. The Dubhe Star Soul Envoy did this, so that Chu Hen could find the descendant of the Seven Souls country within 6 years. There was not much time left in 6 years. Moreover, the ancient, desolate heaven territory was about to open as well. Teacher Mu." Yen Qishan thought for a moment and said, "But the Dubhe Star Soul Envoy had an agreement with him. Wouldn't it be a little humph?" Elder Mu laughed coldly. His turbid eyes were filled with coldness. "There's no proof. Who can prove this? Moreover, the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl originally belonged to the Seven Souls country. It's just returning it to its rightful owner." "That's right. This is what belongs to us. Why should we return it to an outsider?" Yen Yunan's lips curled into a sinister smile. After hearing this, Yen Qishan no longer hesitated. After all, from their point of view, a mere Chu Hen wasn't anything at all. West Wing Guest House. The environment was elegant and the scenery was pleasant. "Young Master Chu, you can stay here. If there's anything you need, just tell the servants outside," Yen Rong said as she brought Chu Hen to a spacious and bright guest room. Chu Hen nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Miss Yen Rong. You're welcome. You've saved me twice. It's only right for me to do such a small thing for you. But there's something I don't understand. Miss Yen Rong, please speak." How did you come to the victorious East State? Other than looking for us, you should be collecting the heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens, right? Why are you suddenly asking this? Chu Hen was slightly surprised. Yan Rong didn't seem to ask this question along the way. Why did she suddenly mention it now? Yan Rong slightly avoided Chu Hen's gaze, smiled and said, "It's nothing. I just suddenly thought of it. After all, the 100 Nations region is so far away from the Eastern Victory region. It would be too difficult for you to come here alone." Chu Hen hesitated for a while and smiled. "I didn't come here alone. I came with a few friends. However, we got separated in Songhai City. You know that Songhai City was rather chaotic previously. I'm still worried that my friends might be in danger. If it's possible, I'd like to trouble Miss Yenrong to help Elder Mu remove the restriction on the Star Soul Pearl. I'll leave early to look for them. So that's how it is. Are your friends from the 100 Kingdoms province? Do you need us to send someone to help you look for them? A few of them are from the 100 Nation State. There are a few that I got to know after coming to the victorious East State. I don't need to trouble you. The victorious East State is rather chaotic now. It's not easy to find people." Chu Hen didn't say that he was from Mount Kunliu. He just answered casually. Yan Rong nodded. "All right, I understand. I'll help you to urge Elder Mu. You should rest first. You can look for me if you need anything." All right. After that, Yan Rong left the guest courtyard. Chu Hen stood up and watched as the other person disappeared around the corner of the courtyard. For some reason, looking at the other person's back, Chu Hen's heart faintly gave birth to some faint confusion. She seemed to be trying to get information out of him. He felt like she wanted to find out his background. Furthermore, when he handed the W Star Soul Pearl to Elder Mu in the hall, Chu Hen felt a cold glint flash across the corner of Elder Mu's eyes. Even though it was a very weak chill, it was still captured by Chu Hen. This matter didn't seem to be as simple as it seemed. Forget it. Perhaps I'm thinking too much. Chapter 708. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Chu Hen stayed peacefully in the Seven Soul Palace for 2 days. During this time, no one came to look for him. Even Yan Rong did not appear after she left that day. It was so peaceful that it was a little abnormal. According to the agreement between Elder Mu and the Alcade Star Soul Envoy, the time was up. However, the Alcade Star Soul Envoy did not send anyone to deliver the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl to him. They did not inform him to retrieve it either. This feeling was as if Chu Hen had been forgotten by the entire Seven Soul Palace. Chu Hen waited patiently until the morning of the 3rd day. No one came to look for him in the guest house in the West Wing. At this moment, Chu Hen finally realized that something was wrong. Immediately, he walked straight out of the guest house and headed towards the inner mansion. Stop! Outside the inner palace, more than 10 guards blocked Chu Hen's path. The higher-ups of the Seven Soul Palace are discussing important matters. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter. There was no trace of politeness in the ice-cold and heavy voice. Just 3 days ago, the Seven Soul Palace's attitude towards Chu Hen was that of an esteemed guest. In just 3 days, the difference was actually so great. Chu Hen lifted his eyelids and said plainly, "Please help me inform the Alcade King or Lady Yan Rong. I have an urgent matter to discuss with them." What a joke! The king and the princess are priceless. How can you see them whenever you want? I cannot see them. Tell them to just give me back what I want. Chu Hen did not want to make a big deal out of this. He was also too lazy to fall out with the Seven Soul Palace. As long as he got the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl back, he would not care about anything else. After all, it was what he deserved. However, the other party's attitude did not change. I don't know what you want. If you want to wait, go back to your place and wait. If you don't want to wait, you can leave. This was an order for him to leave. The higher-ups of the Seven Soul Palace refused to meet him, and their subordinates did not see the bigger picture. Were they going to give the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl to them for nothing? Not only that, There just had to be no one to speak up for him. Wasn't this a little too disrespectful? The actions of the other party instantly caused a ball of nameless flames to rise in Chu Hen's heart. If you don't let me in, don't blame me for barging in. How dare you? This is the Seven Souls Palace. You are not allowed to be so impudent here. The guards had the feeling that the host was bullying the guest, and the restaurant was bullying the guest. They did not take Chu Hen seriously at all. Stop. At this moment, a cold female voice came from inside. Fourth princess! The guards hurriedly bowed in greeting. The person that had arrived was none other than Yen Rong. She wore a gorgeous robe and revealed a graceful and noble aura. Compared to her dressing from a few days ago, she now had the dignified and noble aura of a member of the royal family. Chu Hen could clearly sense that the other party's temperament was different. However, it did not matter. He said indifferently, "It seems that all of you need to give me an explanation." Yen Rong looked at Chu Hen calmly. "Let's talk somewhere else." Then, in a garden with a pavilion, Yen Rong sat on a stone chair in the pavilion with a dignified and elegant manner, accompanied by a few guards with a piercingly cold aura. "Young Master Chu, please sit." Chu Hen smiled frivolously and sat down in front of her. "This is the true face of Princess Yen Rong, isn't it? You're really high and mighty. Isn't it beneath your status for you to sit with a commoner like me?" Yen Rong frowned slightly and looked slightly annoyed. With a flip of her hand, she took out 3 items and placed them on the stone table in front of Chu Hen. The 3 items were a sky-blue crystal card, a thick scroll, and a treasured sword that shone with silver starlight. A high-class VIP card from the Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce. There are 1 billion high-grade, primal crystal stones inside. This is a martial art called the 7 Slaughter of the Star Soul. Its price will not be lower than 2 billion high-grade, primal crystal stones. As for the 3rd item, it is the Astral Saint Sword. It can be activated by the power of the 7 stars. It is extremely powerful and can kill people without a trace. Yen Rong said indifferently. The gaze that flowed out of her eyes was like a reward given by a noble to a commoner. "These 3 items are for you as a form of repayment for returning that item and the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to our 7 Souls Palace." Return? However, Chu Hen did not even bother to lift his eyelids. The smile on his face was full of mockery. This reward is really big. Yen Rong did not care about Chu Hen's mockery. She said indifferently that Dubhe Star Soul Pearl was originally a treasure of our 7 Souls Kingdom. Now, it is just returning it to its rightful owner. I hope that you can stop while you're ahead. A wise man submits to circumstances. Since you've helped us this time, if you have any difficulties in the future, you can come and find us. Ha 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 ha. What a wise man submits to circumstances. Then I would like to ask, why did you make me wait until now when you said 2 days? Previously you treated me with respect, but now you're looking at me coldly. Is this how your 7 Souls Palace treats its guests? No matter what, I, Chu Hen, have saved your life. Is this how you speak to your savior? Chu Hen's face was gradually covered in a layer of frost. He stared at Yen Rong's noble face with disdain and said, "So you, the 4th princess, were pretending that day. Today, the one in front of me is the real you. Why bother? If you look down on me, Chu Hen, then just say it. It's so tiring to put on an act. You." Yen Rong's gaze was slightly cold and a trace of anger rose. Her tone also became cold. I'll say it again. The Dubhe Star Soul Pearl was originally the treasure of our 7 Souls Palace. Now, it's just returning to its rightful owner. Take these things and leave. His heart was cold. Hearing the other party's words, Chu Hen felt a heartfelt chill. In truth, the other party's way of doing things surprised him. His eyes flashed with determination, and he laughed coldly. "Ha! Looks like even though your 7 Souls Palace has been destroyed, your arrogance has not disappeared at all. What do you want? Yenrong no longer gave the other party any face. The arrogance of the royal family was completely exposed. It's very simple. Take back what belongs to me. Chu Hen's voice was ice cold and filled with a strong sense of determination. At this moment, Yenrong's last bit of patience had also disappeared. Her eyes turned cold, and she said, "This is the Seventh Soul's palace. Do you think you can do whatever you want here?" Humph. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up in a demonic and frivolous smile. "You can try. You're courting death." As soon as he finished speaking, the guards behind Yenrong immediately revealed an ominous glint in their eyes. Intense killing intent erupted from them one after another. The cold spears in their hands spat out a dazzling golden light. They were like the sharp blades of the god of death as they directly pierced towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a majestic and monstrous aura erupted from his body. Bang! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The vast and mighty black True Yuan was like a tsunami that had instantly risen and erupted, along with a circle of intense black light patterns. The entire pavilion garden was suddenly flattened into ruins. The violent and terrifying impact spread out in all directions. The long spears in the hands of the guards were all broken, and they were sent flying one after another. Their internal organs were shattered, and they vomited blood as they died. The expression of Yenrong, who possessed the cultivation of the earth's profound stage, changed. She hurriedly used the momentum to retreat backwards. However, in the next second, an ice-cold hand that was like the claw of the netherworld stretched out from the chaotic waves of air and directly grabbed her throat. Ugh! Yenrong's delicate body trembled. In her haste, she hurriedly summoned her sword and stabbed towards the figure in front of her. However, before she could exert her strength, an incomparably violent impact came pouring over. Bang! Yenrong's body instantly flew out and heavily collided with a wall in the area behind her, causing the entire wall to collapse with a loud bang. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Immediately after, several fierce figures rose into the air. Like a flock of eagles, they flashed into the air and looked down from above. They surrounded Chu Hen from all directions and sealed all of his escape routes. Yunnan took the lead with a gaze that was as cold as a sword. Chapter 709. You don't know how to appreciate favors. You still haven't scrammed? One after another, swift and fierce figures soared into the sky, and a cold and austere aura surged towards Chu Hen. The third prince, Yunnan, looked down at Chu Hen from above. His ice-cold gaze was like a sharp sword, revealing a chilling coldness. A disdainful sneer appeared at the corner of Chu Hen's mouth. Two rays of bright light that were as bright as stars shot out from his eyes. Subsequently, he raised his right hand towards Yunnan and directly made a provocative gesture. "If you can touch me, I'll consider it my loss." Disdain. Absolute disdain. Provocation. The most disdainful provocation. At this moment, the way Chu Hen looked at Yunnan was as if he was looking at the most incompetent weakling. "If you can touch me, I'll consider it my loss." There was nothing more disdainful than this. Yunnan's expression immediately darkened, and an ice-cold killing intent directly spread out in all directions. Arrogant and conceited fool, this prince will teach you how to be a person today. Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, Yunnan immediately turned into a ray of light and shot out explosively. The powerful aura of the third level of the earth, profound realm, completely poured out. Rays of gorgeous silver light patterns interweaved and overlapped all over his body like a ray of light illusion. Whoosh! Along with a low sound of metal, a sharp dagger immediately appeared in his hand. Yunnan swooped down at an extremely fast speed and instantly arrived above Chu Hen. The dagger that was swallowing and spitting out dense starlight tore through the air and directly pierced towards Chu Hen's head. Die! This attack was absolutely fatal. The other party did not hold back at all. Every move he made was aimed at a vital point. Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. Just at the instant when the dagger was about to touch the space between Chu Hen's eyebrows, a powerful palm firmly grasped Yan Yunan's wrist, like an iron pincer. Buzz! A piercingly cold gale caused the space to faintly tremble. Yan Yunan seemed to have been frozen, and the dagger was no longer able to move forward by even an inch. Is that all? Chu Hen said with a sneer. What? Yan Yunan's pupils slightly shrunk. Without waiting for him to circulate his true yuan to struggle free, Chu Hen exerted force with a single arm and directly dragged him down. In an instant, Yan Yunan lost his balance in midair. Without giving him any time to adjust before he landed on the ground, Chu Hen raised his leg and gave a heavy kick, firmly landing on Yan Yunan's chest. Bang! The incomparably dull explosion made people's hearts tremble. Together with a circle of ripples, Yan Yunan flew backward like a sandbag in front of Chu Hen. Bang, bang, bang! The terrifying inertia was added to Yan Yunan's body, and the latter's body continuously crashed through 5 to 6 buildings and walls. Rocks of all sizes were sent flying. Dust piled up, and airwaves spread across the sky. Boom! After passing through nearly 10 walls in a row, Yan Yunan finally collided with the wall of a palace before he was able to stop. His face was covered in dirt, his clothes were in a sorry state, his vital energy and blood surged, and a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. Damn bastard! Hey, it's not over yet! Third, Prince. A mocking sneer followed, and Yan Yunan's expression changed drastically. In the next second, his pupils, which had shrunk to the size of a needle tip, immediately reflected a handsome and cold face. Before Yan Yunan could react, he felt his throat tighten, and a strong palm directly grabbed his throat. As Chu Hen clutched his throat, an incomparably powerful and monstrous force erupted from his body. Bang! With a loud sound, the palace wall behind Yan Yunan was once again smashed open with a huge hole. Using Yan Yunan's body as a point of force, Chu Hen directly smashed through the 2 sides of the dazzling palace and arrived at the courtyard square in the rear area. Yan Yunan had completely lost his resistance, and he was completely suppressed by the force that erupted from Chu Hen. The rapid and frenzied airflow rapidly whistled in his ears. At this moment, Chu Hen was like an incomparably heavy mountain, and Yan Yunan could not summon any strength to resist at all. Shock and fear gradually spread on Yan Yunan's face. Forcefully suppressing the shock in his heart, he once again raised the dagger in his hand and slashed at Chu Hen's arm. Get lost! Yan Yunan roared hysterically. He only felt extremely sullen. Are you angry from embarrassment? A ridiculing expression appeared on Chu Hen's face. Raising his arm, he lifted his opponent high up into the air. Sending a kick towards the sky, he heavily kicked his opponent's chest. Bang! The incomparably powerful impact was completely vented on Yan Yunan's body. The latter's body was bent into an arc, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood as he rapidly fell into the sky. Third Prince! The faces of the 7 Souls Palace's guards were incomparably pale. None of them could keep up with Chu Hen's rhythm. What shocked them the most was that the 3rd Prince, who was at the 3rd level of the Earth Profound Realm, was actually being beaten like a dead dog by Chu Hen. He did not even have the ability to resist. Who? The strong wind whistled by his ears. Yan Yunan's expression was gloomy. He clenched his teeth, and the veins on his forehead bulged. Buzz! A surge of surging true origin immediately gushed out. However, in the next instant, the space behind him faintly trembled, and a blurry shadow instantly solidified. Too slow, 3rd Prince. You? Yan Yunan's mind was shocked once again. Buzz! Immediately a powerful black light surged out from Chu Hen's body. He somersaulted in the air, and a heavy leg fiercely smashed down. The heavy leg, which was covered in a dense black light, exploded with a tremendous force. Bang! With a loud bang, a layer of airwave light patterns spread out in the sky, and an incomparably terrifying impact that was comparable to a flood was completely vented on Yan Yunan's body. The true origin outside of Yan Yunan's body was instantly crushed into pieces, and his body fell down rapidly like a meteorite. Boom! The earth shook, and the momentum was like a clap of thunder. The moment Yan Yunan landed on the ground, it was really like the earth exploding heavenly stars. A vast and mighty impact swept out in all directions, and the stone tiles on the ground collapsed inch by inch. Layer by layer, countless rocks were like a group of startled moths, soaring into the sky. With Yan Yunan as the center, the ground immediately sunk, and cracks rapidly spread out to the surroundings. Under the crazy dust, Yan Yunan lay in the ruins like a dead dog, his body shivering, and he looked like a miserable beggar, with blood constantly flowing out of his mouth. Can't even withstand a single blow. Chu Hen mocked condescendingly. This Yan Yunan strength was similar to that of Lu Chuanfeng from the Northern Heaven Chamber of Commerce, and Chu Hen could already kill that Lu Chuanfeng when he was at the 9th rank of the void-piercing realm. Now that Chu Hen had entered the ranks of the profound world realm, it was as easy as flipping his hand to take down the opponent. All the guards of the Seven Souls Palace had their eyes wide open, and they were extremely shocked. How is this possible? Fourth Princess Yenrong, who stood out from the rubble, also had a deathly pale face. It had only been a few moves, but her third royal brother, whom she had always revered, was actually unable to resist it all in the hands of Chu Hen. In the blink of an eye, she was completely beaten by Chu Hen. Even though she had seen it with her own eyes, she still did not dare to believe what had happened in front of her was real. Whoosh! Suddenly, it was also at this moment that an extremely swift and fierce, wind-breaking momentum attacked this side at high speed. Everyone was shocked, and they saw a dazzling crescent-flying shuttle rapidly enlarging. Its speed was so fast that it was like a meteor chasing the moon. In an instant, a crescent-flying shuttle that was hundreds of feet wide traversed the sky, sweeping up endless killing intent as it slashed towards Chu Hen. A thick aura of danger whizzed over, as if it was going to split Chu Hen into two halves. Humph! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and the power of the 7 stars in his body bloomed like the sun. He put his palms together, and silver patterns of light flowed and quickly gathered in his palms. Then he opened his palms, and an exquisite crescent-flying shuttle suddenly appeared. Whoosh! In the next instant, the crescent-flying shuttle in Chu Hen's palms shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. In the instant it shot out, it also expanded at a terrifying speed into a giant flying shuttle that was over 100 meters long. Boom! Then, 2 Migres shuttles that were almost exactly the same, one big and one small, collided head-on in the shape of a cross. It was earth-shattering, and the sky changed color. Endless waves of light shot into the sky, and tens of thousands of silver streaks of light collided like stars, giving rise to an overwhelming divine might. The vast and mighty silver holy light covered the sky and swept out in different directions. The space trembled uneasily, and layers of waves of air spread out endlessly like ripples on the surface of water. Because Chu Hen was too close to the point where the energy converged, the surging aftermath caused him to be shaken to the point of flying backwards. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, more and more experts from the Seven Souls Palace dashed out from all directions and surrounded Chu Hen in the center. At the same time, in the direction where the crescent moon flying shuttle came from, a few figures with powerful auras walked out from the backyard unhurriedly. The 2 people in the lead were the Alcade Monarch, Yen Qishan, and the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, Elder Mu. Humph! How dare you behave atrociously in my Seven Souls Palace? Today, I won't let you off. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy stared at Chu Hen in the sky with a gloomy expression. The Alcade Monarch, Yen Qishan, also had a cold and murderous look on his face. He shouted coldly, "The reason why we avoided meeting you was to let you know the difficulty and retreat. I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful and openly hurt people in my Seven Souls Palace. You are truly despicable." The guilty party complained first. Chu Hen didn't find the two's reprimand funny. He pointed at them and said, "Today I finally know why your Seven Souls kingdom perished back then. How can such a shameless kingdom prosper?" "Shut up!" The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's eyes were cold. "How dare you, little thief? You don't have the right to criticize my Seven Souls kingdom. You don't know how to appreciate favors. Today I won't let you off." "Appreciate? What a joke!" Chu Hen was even more furious. He pointed at the two of them and questioned. Chu Hen had an agreement with the Dubhi Star Spirit Envoy beforehand. According to his instructions, I had personally handed that thing to you. Not only did you not say a word of thanks, but now you're openly violating the agreement. If this isn't shameless, then what is? You, for 3 consecutive days, you avoided meeting me and turned a blind eye to me. You even ordered your servants to chase me away. You didn't even have someone to speak for you. Is this shameless? Shut up! The Alcade King's face darkened. His killing intent rose. Chu Hen did not care and continued to mock sternly. He pointed at Yen Rong, who was in the area behind him, and said, "Previously I saved this woman twice in a row. It has only been 3 days, and now you turn around and want to kill me. Do you still have any morality? Let me ask you, this heartless and shameless kingdom, how can it not be destroyed? Rumble!" In an instant, everyone from the Seven Souls Palace was filled with killing intent. All of them were shocked and furious at the same time, and they were like vicious wolves. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's old face turned cold. He took a step forward and scolded viciously. "I announce that today you will die here." Ha ha ha! Faced with the other party's sentence that seemed to be condemning him, Chu Hen merely laughed. His laughter was filled with disdain. At the moment when his laughter suddenly stopped, Chu Hen's body emitted the aura of a ruler. His gaze was ice-cold as he stared at the crowd in front of him. Using a tone that was close to judgment, he coldly spoke. "You're wrong. I'm sorry to tell you that today I'm afraid that your Seven Souls Palace will be massacred. Buzz!" As soon as he finished speaking, a demonic purple light blossomed in the sky. A dazzling scroll immediately appeared in Chu Hen's hand. The scroll opened. The picture of 10,000 beasts was like a divine rune. Chapter 710. Today I, Chu Hen, will destroy your Seven Souls Palace with the power of 10,000 beasts. The cold words came out of Chu Hen's mouth clearly and indifferently, as if he was passing judgment on everyone present. What? The faces of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, Yen Sushan, Yen Rong, and the rest changed. Looking at the strange scroll in Chu Hen's hand that was emitting a dark purple light, a bad premonition instantly surged in everyone's heart. "Kill him!" The Alcade King, Yen Sushan, sternly shouted. "Yes." In an instant, all the experts of the Seven Souls Palace were enraged. They all exploded with a strong murderous aura and charged towards Chu Hen, facing the many guards who were not weak. Chu Hen's face raised a disdainful smile. Hua! The revolving 1,000 beasts painting was like a scroll that was unfolded in the sky. On it, all kinds of demonic beast patterns and runes shone brightly. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and an endless stream of true yuan was immediately injected into it. Boom! In the next moment, the scroll immediately shone brightly, releasing a bright divine light that was as bright as the sun. The incomparably strong aura was like a volcano that had erupted in an instant. A strong wave of energy spread out in all directions. All the experts of the Seven Souls Palace were suppressed. All of them felt as if they were facing a mountain, but they could not take another step forward. 10,000 pillars of light pierced through the sky, causing the 9 heavens to lose their color. Surging dark clouds hovered above the Seven Souls Palace. Chu Hen's body was surrounded by spiritual runes. Between his hands, it was as if he was holding a bright moon. Roar! Ao! Within the ear-piercing beam of light, the roars of various demonic beasts could be heard one after another. The sky and earth spun, and the sky changed color. Buzz. Then, accompanied by a series of deafening thunderous roars, an enormous and violent aura swept out in all directions. Bang! Boom! The earth shook, and balls of dazzling light appeared between heaven and earth. Huge figures trampled the tall buildings below into ruins. Roar! The monstrous beast's roar pierced the eardrums of everyone present. The faces of everyone from the Seven Souls Palace suddenly became deathly pale, without a single trace of blood. What this is? The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, Yen Tsushan, Yen Rong, and the third prince Yen Yunan, who was lying in the deep pit of the ruins, all widened their eyes. Their hearts trembled, and their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. Demonic beast. Hundreds of fearsome demonic beasts. The ferocious might it exuded was so terrifying that it made one's hair stand on end. There was a giant snake with 3 heads, a winged tiger with wings on its back, a giant bear king with a body as big as a mountain, a giant tortoise covered in spiky armor, a crocodile wolf with a wolf's head and a crocodile's body, and so on. All kinds of demon beasts appeared in the sky above the Seven Soul Palace. However, the thing that made their hair stand on end was that these demonic beasts, who were usually violent and cruel, were now surrounding Chu Hen, as if they were his most loyal companions. Among the 300 or so demonic beasts, there were actually close to 30 beast emperors. That is, level 4 demonic beast, 3-headed sky-tearing python. There are also hidden sky eagles, ancient woolly mammoths. Oh my God, big earth-violent bear king, rumble. This sudden scene instantly struck the people of the Seven Soul Palace as if they were struck by lightning. It was as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in their heads. Among the 30 beast emperors, there were close to 10 that were level 3 and above. Especially the earth-violent bear king, it was an extremely powerful level 5 beast emperor. In addition to the 200 to 300 beast emperors, the group of beasts in front of them was enough to flatten the entire Kongyu city, let alone the Seven Soul Palace. Chu Hen held the rotating battle beast illustration, like a judge holding the talisman of life and death. His ice-cold eyes did not contain a trace of emotion. Looking at the shocked faces of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy and Yen Tsushan, the corners of Chu Hen's mouth could not help but rise into a cold arc. To be honest, if you had negotiated nicely, there was a possibility of returning the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to you. Now, you have completely lost this chance. Murderous intent piled up, and the group of beasts roared. An unparalleled aura enveloped the entire place. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's pupils trembled as he quickly shouted, I promise to return the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl to you. Return it to you. Huh. Chu Hen laughed coldly. Sorry, it's too late. Changing the topic, 2 rays of cold light shot out. With a wave of his hand, it was as if he was the king of the world. A bloody feast is about to begin. Slaughter all of these people. Slaughter all of them. Roar. Screech. Under Chu Hen's command, the group of beasts were like ferocious beasts that had broken free from the iron chains of their cages. One by one, they exploded with an unparalleled ferocious aura and pounced towards the experts of the Seven Soul Kingdom. Everyone had never seen such a scene before. All of them were terrified, and their faces turned pale. In a panic, they waved their weapons and slashed at the group of beasts. However, this was not an ordinary group of beasts. It was an army of 28 beast emperors and more than 200 beast emperors. The group of ferocious beasts instantly exploded with their bestial instincts. Along with mournful screams, the experts of the Seven Soul Kingdom were torn into pieces by the beasts. Under the sharp claws and teeth, blood rained down. A one-sided massacre was about to take place. Roar, the level 5 beast emperor, violent Earth Bear King, was as powerful as Mount Tai. It swung its huge bear paw towards the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy and the Alcade King, Yen Chishan. The airwave was monstrous and the space shook. Everyone was shocked as they hurriedly retreated. Rumble! The violent Earth Bear King's paw landed heavily on the ground. The ground immediately caved in. Thousands of bricks were crushed into powder. Pebbles of all sizes were shot everywhere. A few experts of the Seven Soul Palace who did not manage to escape in time were directly smashed into meat paste. They did not even have the chance to scream. Screech! One of the guards who had flown into the sky was pierced through by the black shadow that the Netherworld Eagle had transformed into before he could stabilize himself. The heat wave rose, and the guard's body was instantly cut into two. Scarlet blood rained down from the sky. Roar! The ancient woolly elephant was huge, and its momentum was shocking. Its terrifying defense could be said to be invulnerable. A few experts of the Seven Soul Palace attacked its head indiscriminately, but they could not hurt it at all. Everyone could not withstand a casual attack from it. Its huge trunk waved. Once one was hit by it, it was like being hit by a meteorite. All the bones were broken, and the internal organs were smashed out. Shock and anger. Shock and horror. The people from the Seven Souls Palace would never have thought that Chu Hen still had such a terrifying trump card hidden on him. Did he really come from the Saint Star Empire? At this moment, the people of the Seven Soul Palace fell into an unprecedented panic. The arrogance they had before was gone. Just a moment ago, a mere servant dared to be so rude to Chu Hen. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen made them feel what regret was. Go to the mountain. I will hold this evil beast back. You go kill that little bastard. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy shouted at Yen Chushan. Then his body moved, and he rushed towards the strongest violent Earth Bear King. Roar! The violent Earth Bear King swung its huge paw and whizzed forward. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and silver light and shadows scattered in all directions. A magnificent wave of air erupted, and the violent Earth Bear King was actually forced to take a few steps back. On the other hand, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's body was flowing with beautiful silver starlight. Outside his body, there was a layer of saint armor that overflowed with brilliant light. As an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, and was also one of the 7 great star spirit envoys, the opponent's cultivation was strong. How could he be an ordinary person? However, it was impossible for the opponent to stop the advance of the demonic beast army by himself. The only way was to kill Chu Hen first. Then the demonic beasts would be like dragons without a leader. Then they might be able to control the situation. I got it. The Alcade King, Yen Chushan, naturally understood the opponent's intention. Without saying a word, he exploded with a dazzling holy light. Then he turned into a majestic silver meteor and attacked Chu Hen. Die, you traitor! Alcade, heaven and earth, rumble! As the legitimate bloodline of the 7 Spirits Kingdom, the power that he had cultivated with the Big Dipper Heavenly Star technique was stronger than others. The majestic attack triggered the power of the sky. It was comparable to a meteor piercing through the sky. Wherever it went, the space would be distorted. Yen Chushan's attack had the aura of wanting to kill Chu Hen in one move. However, Chu Hen still stood proudly in the air, neither leaning nor moving. Wang, a ball of dense black light and a bewitching purple light surged out from his body at the same time. The airflow in the surroundings became chaotic. Chi-chi, along with a restless roar of thunder, densely packed black lightning gathered on Chu Hen's right arm. Facing the silver meteor that Yen Chushan had transformed into, Chu Hen's right fist, which was engulfed in lightning, collided with it. Bang! Once the two collided, it was earth-shattering and the sky shook. A terrifying power penetrated the sky. Endless silver starlight was like a blossoming rain of fireworks, directly exploding in the sky. The starlight and the dark lightning intertwined, and the sound of the intense collision was deafening. However, Even such a powerful attack was not able to harm Chu Hen in the slightest. That grave and stern face revealed a transcendent aura, numerous black bolts of lightning shot down like pythons, and the powerful divine radiance of the stars that enveloped Yan Xushan's body was actually defeated bit by bit and successively destroyed. What? Yan Xushan turned pale with fright. His opponent's cultivation was only at the second level of the Earth Profound Realm, while he had already reached the fourth level of the Earth Profound Realm. How could he still withstand such a powerful attack? Who was this person in front of him? How could such a heaven-defying person appear in the small, sacred star empire? Before Yan Xushan could launch another round of attacks, a thick serpent tail swept across the sky, smashing heavily onto his body like a dragon. Bang! Yan Xushan, who was caught off guard, was thrown away. In the next second, a three-headed, tri-elemental tearing sky python that was 600 to 700 meters long pounced on his opponent with an endless cold aura. Chapter 711. Roar. Screech. At this moment, the entire Kangyu city was in a state of turmoil and chaos. The roars of the demonic beasts that could suppress all directions were incessant, shaking the ground of the entire city. All the residents of the city were terrified, and the experts of the major forces, as well as the guards of the city lord's mansion, were also alerted one after another. What's happening? It seems to be coming from the Seven Souls Palace. Seven Souls Palace? That's right. The Seven Souls Palace is being attacked by a group of demon beasts. Let's go and rescue them. Kangyu City was one of the few peaceful cities in the eastern Victory State. The forces in the city were relatively united. Once a foreign enemy invaded, or if a certain family or force was in trouble, the other few forces would not sit idly by. However, before these people had even entered the Seven Souls Palace, they were immediately shocked by the scene before them. Their faces turned ashen, and their hearts trembled in fear. How was this an invasion? It was simply a bloody massacre. Several hundred ferocious, gigantic, monstrous beasts launched a one-sided massacre against the people from the Seven Souls Palace. Every single expert that possessed considerable strength was completely powerless in front of these powerful, monstrous beasts. They were continuously torn to shreds under the claws and teeth of these monstrous beasts. More than half of the Seven Souls Palace was dyed red. Broken limbs and broken walls could be seen. It was a horrible sight. In the sky above the chaotic battlefield, a young figure looked at the scene in front of him indifferently. His cold aura was like that of the god of death. What should we do? When the powerhouses from various forces saw the horrifying scene, they immediately gave up on the idea of helping the people from the Seven Souls Palace. With such a powerful demon beast army, it would not be difficult for them to massacre the entire Kangyu city. They would only be sending themselves to their deaths if they went there. What else can we do? This is not something we can do. Don't try to show off. It seems like the Seven Souls Palace has offended someone they shouldn't have. Let's inform the Lord City Governor. There's nothing we can do now. In the face of absolute strength, the attitude of the people from Kangyu City changed completely. Of course, it wasn't that they didn't care about morality. It was just that they were powerless to do anything. The monstrous might emitted by the 28 beast emperors was enough to render them immobile. However, according to the current situation, the Seven Souls Palace would most likely be finished by the time the city lord and the others arrived. During this period of time, Victorious East region was really becoming more and more chaotic. The unstoppable demonic beast army continued to reap the lives of the Seven Souls Palace's experts. Everywhere he looked, it could be said to be miserable. Sparks flew in all directions as the violent Earth Bear King and the Alcade Star Spirit envoy battled. However, the demonic beasts were far superior to humans in terms of stamina and energy output. If they couldn't finish the battle in a short period of time, the chances of the humans losing the battle would be as high as 80%. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy was extremely anxious. Looking at his subordinates who had died miserably, He was both frightened and angry. He really wanted to kill Chu Hen with one palm. One must know, after the fall of the Seven Spirits country, in order to develop to their current strength, they had paid a huge price and effort. They originally thought that, in a few decades, they would be able to prepare for the great task of reviving the country. However, the heavy blow brought by Chu Hen had directly destroyed their years of accumulation. At this moment, the Alcade King Yen Chushan was also entangled by the level 4 beast emperor, triple-tearing sky python. The triple-tearing sky python, which had 3 huge heads, controlled 3 different types of origin energy. The left head could spit out red flames. The right head could release ice energy, and the middle head could control the power of the storm, ice, and fire mixed together, and the raging wind roared. All kinds of powerful attacks continuously bombarded Yen Chushan like a mountain torrent. The latter had no power to resist and could only use all his strength to defend. Everything was developing in the direction of destroying the Seven Souls Palace. The 4th princess, Yen Rong's face was pale at this moment. Her eyes trembled as she looked at the young figure, standing proudly in the void. Why was it like this? She had really misjudged this time. She was a very conceited and intelligent woman. That day, when the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy asked her to personally arrange for Chu Hen to rest in the wing room, she understood the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's intentions. The Dubhe Star Soul Pearl could not be returned to Chu Hen. This was the meaning behind the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's words. She also knew that the former had asked her to investigate Chu Hen's background and figure out his identity before coming up with a countermeasure. Who would have thought that the seemingly ordinary Chu Hen would actually hide so deeply? It was the Seven Souls Palace's wrong judgment that directly brought them a disaster. Chu Hen quietly looked at the scene in front of him, his indifferent eyes very calm. To be honest, if these people had talked nicely, treated him with respect, and begged Chu Hen to return the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl, how would the situation be like this? Chu Hen was not a narrow-minded person. Although the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl was still a treasure, there was no reason for Chu Hen to not let it go. However, the people of the Seven Souls Palace had made an extremely wrong choice. They did not listen, did not ask, avoided, and chased him out in the end. They even wanted to kill him. This series of actions completely aroused Chu Hen's killing intent. Bang! Boom! In the chaos of the battle, the experts of the Seven Souls Palace did not even have a complete corpse. However, in this chaotic battle, there was actually a small and weak figure mixed in. It was a little monkey with golden fur all over its body. It was less than half a meter tall, with a round head and clear and bright eyes that twinkled like stars. This little monkey jumped up and down, like a fish in troubled waters, darting in all directions. Ee-ee-ya. The other party did not participate in the chaos of the battle. Instead, it climbed to the top of a pavilion and swaggered down on the eaves. Then it leisurely took out a banana, peeled it, and happily ate it. Bang! At this moment, a gigantic beast's body slammed into the building, causing half of the building to collapse. The little monkey jumped in fright, its hand trembling, and the banana that it had just bitten off fell to the ground. The other party was so angry that he pointed at the giant beast and cursed. His behavior was extremely comical and funny. However, in this kind of situation, no one would notice the little monkey, and no one would laugh out loud. This was because the Seven Souls Palace had long since formed a river of blood, and the scene in front of them was as terrifying as the legendary Azura Hell. Roar! The violent Earth Bear King's advantage was gradually revealed. The raging flames that soared to the sky caused the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy to retreat step by step. Evil creature, I will fight you to the death today. In his rage, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's body suddenly shone with silver light. The dazzling and beautiful starlight was like a blooming divine sun. 7 silver light patterns flew out of his body like spiritual vines, extending and expanding endlessly. Fecta chain, trap gods and demons. Rumble! In an instant, the 7 silver spiritual vines immediately transformed into 7 huge and thick chains. Under the silver light, the 7 huge chains looked like wings with flickering light patterns. The silver chains expanded rapidly, extending to 1,000 meters in an instant, and dashed towards the violent Earth Bear King in front. The violent Bear King, who was caught off guard, was instantly bound by the Fecta chain, as if it had been entangled by 7 huge silver pythons. It could not immediately break free. Fecta chapter martial arts? Chu Hen, who was in the rear area, lifted his eyelids slightly and muttered to himself. The Fecta chapter was a chapter of the 5th level of the Big Dipper Heavenly Star technique, and it was this Fecta chain that could be used for both offense and defense. To be able to trap such a powerful, violent Earth Bear King, one could imagine how powerful the Fecta chain was. Buzz! In the next instant, the violent Earth Bear King was trapped. The wrinkled old face of the Alcade Star Spirit envoy suddenly exploded with a strong killing intent. With a thought, a dazzling and luxurious silver light ball appeared in his palm. Little bastard, this Dubhi Star Soul Pearl was sent by you. Today, I will let you die under its power. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy directly aimed his sharp tip at Chu Hen. In his opinion, killing Chu Hen was obviously much easier than killing the violent Earth Bear King. Rumble! Without saying anything, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy directly rushed towards Chu Hen. The Dubhi Star Soul Pearl in his palm shone brightly, and the strong silver light illuminated the sky. Such a strong aura pierced through the Milky Way, and the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy seemed to be holding the stars in his palm, emitting a momentum that could destroy the mountains and rivers. Was the 7th Soul Palace going to make a comeback? The experts of Yuqing City, who were watching from afar, all felt their hearts light up. They did not expect that the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy could still burst out such a strong attack at such a critical moment. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier. As long as they killed Chu Hen, the situation would be under control. However, Chu Hen coldly looked at the opponent rushing towards him, and let the furious wind hit his body. Little bastard, die. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's eyes flashed a trace of malevolence. Chu Hen raised his eyelids, and a trace of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Old fool! Do you know how to write, stupid? What? The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's mind suddenly trembled. Then he heard a loud and clear eagle's cry that went straight to the 9th heaven. Then an earth-shattering heat wave came surging from behind him. The wind was howling, and the air wave was tearing. A shadow wing covered in black flame, like the aurora flying arrow from thousands of years ago, cut across the sky, and suddenly swept past the right side of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy. Hiss! The space seemed to slow down, and everyone's heart was shocked. That black shadow wing was like a sharp flame-cutting blade that could cut iron like mud, easily cutting through someone's flesh and bones. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy's pupils shrank to the size of a needle, and he was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. He helplessly watched his right arm being cut off neatly, and the broken arm was still holding the beautiful Dubhi Star Soul Pearl. Chapter 712. What? Looking at the sudden scene in front of them, the expressions of the people inside and outside the 7 Souls Palace changed drastically once again. The pupils of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy shrank violently as he watched his right arm being cut off by the black shadow wing. An incomparably scorching pain spread from the wound. The Dubhi Astral Soul Pearl in his hand flew out as well. The black shadow wing drew a powerful arc in the sky, and along with a loud and clear eagle cry, the black shadow rushed into the clouds, turning into a majestic remote sky eagle. Hiss! At the same time, the 3-elemental sky-ripping python that was fighting with Yen Chushan also soared into the sky. Its 700 to 800 meters long body was like a divine dragon. It stood up straight, and its 3 heads looked down at the Alcade King Yen Chushan, a cold and dangerous aura spread out. All 3 of its heads opened up, and the sharp horn on each of its heads shone with a different color of intense light. The spiritual energy between heaven and earth quickly gathered towards the three horns, forming circular spirals that emitted extremely violent energy waves. Buzz! In the next moment, the left head spat out an incomparably hot pillar of fire, while the right head spat out an extremely cold and dense ice, profound chi. Two different types of energy that countered each other blended together at this moment, releasing the terrifying power of ice and fire. Immediately after, the horn on the middle head released an extremely violent aura. It opened its mouth, and tens of thousands of green wind blades rained down, fusing with the ice and fire, intertwining with them. In an instant, it turned into a three-colored shock wave that swept towards Yen Chushan below. The beautiful rain of light was dazzling. The unstoppable attack was like a shocking flood that broke through a dam. Yen Chushan's expression changed drastically, and he had no strength to resist at all. Boom! The incomparably berserk impact force crushed everything in its way, as tens of thousands of resplendent light runes shot into the sky. The vast and mighty might was comparable to an exploding mountain torrent. The power of fire, ice, and wind all assailed Yen Tsushan's body. The latter was directly sent flying before heavily smashing into the ground, blood spewing from his mouth without end. An earth-shattering blast of air alternated between hot and cold. The buildings in the Seven Soul Palace were razed to the ground. Yen Tsushan's body had been burned by the flames, frozen by the profound ice, and cut by the wind blades. His clothes were ragged, and he was in an extremely sorry state. He didn't look like a prince at all. Roar! Immediately after, the violent Earth Bear King let out a deafening roar, and a thick brown light erupted from its body. The majestic and brutal aura caused all the beasts to tremble. Bang, bang, bang! A series of violent explosions resounded, and the 7 silver star chains that were wrapped around its body were actually completely shattered, shattering into brilliant arcs of light that covered the sky. In the next second, the eyes of the violent Earth Bear King surged with a cold light. It raised its palace-like giant bear paw and swung it towards the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy. Rumble! The momentum was vast, and the sound of rolling thunder could be heard between heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, whose arm had been chopped off by the hidden Sky Eagle, didn't even have time to stabilize his mind, and the terrifying impact that could topple mountains and overturn seas had smashed onto his body. Bang! A layer of vigorous light rippled between heaven and earth, and the silver sacred armor on the body of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy was smashed into pieces by this slap. The hearts of the people outside the palace who witnessed this scene couldn't help but tremble. As expected of the violent Earth Bear King, which was famous for its violence, this destructive power was really terrifying. Bang! After losing the defense of the sacred armor, the remaining power was all vented on the body of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, and the latter's skinny body was directly slapped away. His internal organs shook violently, and his bones were shattered. A big mouthful of blood gushed out from his mouth, and the direction where the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy was smashed to was exactly where Chu Hen was. Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows slightly raised, and a trace of ridicule flashed through his eyes. Then he moved his palm, and a huge tearing force directly pulled the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy over, and pressed one of his hands on the head of the Spirit Envoy. Let go of me!" the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy roared fiercely. However, at this moment, the Spirit Envoy was like a grasshopper in the palm of Chu Hen, and his momentum was completely suppressed, and he didn't even have the strength to resist. And almost at the same time, the cruel massacre quietly ended. The whole 7 Souls Palace was filled with blood, and the corpses were piled up everywhere. No one knew whether it was intentional or not, but at this moment, everyone in the 7 Souls Palace was slaughtered, except for the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy who was held in the palm of Chu Hen, Yen Chushan who was lying on the ground and couldn't get up, Yen Rong who was pale and scared, and the third prince, Yan, Yunnan, who was still lying in the pit of the ruins, were still alive, roar. The demonic beasts didn't immediately take the lives of these 4 people, but surrounded them from all directions. Endless fear covered their faces. Let go of Master Mu, Master Mu. I will agree to any conditions. The Alcade King Yen Chu Shan was covered in blood, and he looked up at Chu Hen and said with a weak voice, "For the 7 Souls Palace, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy could be said to be their spiritual pillar. He was the only Star Spirit Envoy who survived that year. No matter in what aspect, the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy was the most experienced person in the 7 Souls Palace, and his importance was self-evident." Screech! At this moment, the sky remote eagle flew towards Chu Hen, and when it arrived in front of Chu Hen, it loosened its sharp claws and threw a silver ball of light towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen caught it in his hand, and a faint ripple appeared in his eyes when he saw the Dubhe Star soul pearl that he had lost and then regained. Rather than saying that everything was caused by the Dubhe Star soul pearl, it was better to say that the people of the 7 Souls Palace didn't abide by the rules. "Has the restriction been removed?" Chu Hen asked faintly, and his calm tone didn't show any emotion. "Restriction?" The Alcade King clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, Let go of Master Mu, and I will help you remove the restriction on the Star Soul Pearl immediately, as long as you let us go." The other party seemed to have caught a life-saving straw. However, Chu Hen shook his head in an especially mocking manner. His deep eyes revealed traces of ice-cold chilliness. "It seems that you haven't understood the situation. Let me ask you, what capital do you have to bargain with me?" As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely dangerous aura of death instantly enveloped the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy who was under Chu Hen's palm. The latter's face changed dramatically, and his eyes were wide open, and he subconsciously shouted, "No, no!" Before he finished speaking, he stopped abruptly. A terrifying palm energy directly penetrated the head of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, and the red and white blood danced on Chu Hen's fingertips, which was particularly eye-catching. There was no room for negotiation. He didn't show any mercy. Chapter 713. Bang! A muffled explosion spread under Chu Hen's palm. The red and white liquid suddenly danced on Chu Hen's fingertips, swaying with a dazzling luster, without any room for negotiation. A domineering palm strength instantly pierced through the head of the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy. Clean and efficient, cold and merciless. Rumble! Yen, Tzu Shan, Yen Rong, and Yen Yunnan, who was lying in the pit of the ruins, all had a drastic change of expression. Their faces were ashen, as if there was a thunderbolt exploding in their minds. They were shocked and angry at the same time, trembling with fear. The most experienced person in the 7 Souls Palace actually died here. It was really sad and lamentable. The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, whose skull was pierced through, was like a bird with broken wings, falling from the sky powerlessly. Under the blood stains on his face, one could vaguely see that he died with his eyes wide open. He was an old monster who survived from the fall of the 7 Souls Kingdom. Who would have thought that today he would be killed by a junior who came from the same place, the 100 Kingdom State, with just one palm? It was such a great irony. Bang! The Alcade Star Spirit Envoy fell heavily on the ground. His withered old bones were instantly disfigured, and he couldn't be more dead. Immediately, Chu Hen looked at the Alcade monarch again and said lightly, "Do you have any more questions?" The Alcade monarch's lips slightly moved a few times. He clenched his fists and then loosened them. At this moment, the way he looked at Chu Hen was completely replaced by fear and dread. The young man in front of him was completely different from what he had imagined. He was not someone they could provoke at all. No restriction. The Alcade monarch clenched his fists, and his knuckles cracked, as he slowly said such a sentence. "Oh!" There was a slight surprise in Chu Hen's eyes. "There's no restriction in this Dubhe Star Soul Pearl." Yes, there's no restriction at all. His words were like a wake-up call. After listening to what the other party said, Chu Hen could not help but come to a sudden realization. It turned out that he had been deceived by the Dubhi Star spirit envoy. From the very beginning, the old man had no intention of making a deal with Chu Hen. There was only one goal, and that was for Chu Hen to find the descendants of the Seven Spirits country and give them the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl. What a big game of chess! Chu Hen smiled. At this moment, he could not help but think of the saying, "The human heart is sinister." Everything was a routine. From the very beginning, Chu Hen had been kept in the dark. However, the biggest mistake of the Dubhi Star Spirit Envoy was that he had underestimated Chu Hen too much. He would never have thought that in less than 6 years, Chu Hen had grown so fast that it was terrifying. He had never expected that his selfishness from back then would cause the Seven Souls Mansion to suffer such a heavy blow today. What a surprise! In an instant, the last bit of trust that Chu Hen had for the Seven Spirits country collapsed. And, under the complete disappointment, Alcade King Yen Xiushan was pushed to the feet of the Grim Reaper. Buzz, an extremely dangerous sword force, was suddenly released from Chu Hen's body. Strong true yuan quickly surged out of his body and immediately condensed into a black sword light that was tens of meters long. Swoosh! In the next moment, the black sword light immediately swept up a terrifying killing intent and slashed down towards Yen Xiushan. Yen Xiushan's pupils shrank violently, and fear filled his entire face. No, boom! A powerful destructive impact was released. The ground shook, rocks piled up, and a huge pit suddenly appeared on the road. Under the shocked gazes of Yen Rong and Yen Yunan, Yen Xiushan's body was directly cut into pieces by the extremely sharp sword light. "Uncle!" Yen Rong's body trembled, and the last line of defense in her heart immediately collapsed. With a bang, she knelt on the ground powerlessly with a miserable look on her face. First, it was the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, then it was the Alcade Monarch. The two of them were killed, and the shock caused by it made Yen Rong regret it completely. She was wrong. She was really wrong. If she had known this would happen, she would not have provoked Chu Hen. Ah, traitor! Yen Yunan was burning with anger, and his eyes were bloodshot. Then he slapped the ground with his palm, and with the help of the strong recoil, he bounced up from the deep pit and the ruins into the sky. "I'll kill you!" In an instant, Yen Yunan, who was in a rage, exploded with a strong and vast true yuan power. Zung! He pulled out the saber on his back, and an infinite amount of bright silver light quickly crawled up the saber like spiritual vines, forming circles of beautiful flowing light patterns as aura skyrocketed, and the saber light pierced through the sky. Yen Yunan was like an angry beast. He leaped up and held the hilt of the saber tightly with both hands, and slashed at Chu Hen's head with the force of splitting a mountain. Bang! A violent ripple spread out between heaven and earth, and the power of Yen Yunan's saber was blocked less than half a meter in front of Chu Hen. A layer of faint purple light screen blocked in front of Chu Hen like a shield. The ripple swayed, and waves of air flew everywhere. Even though Yen Yunan used all his strength in this attack, he did not even touch Chu Hen's clothes. Trash will always be trash. What? Yen Yunan's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and his entire face was distorted from anger. Then Chu Hen raised his eyes, and 2 rays of cold light shot out. Then he waved his hand, and an illusory palm shadow immediately appeared in the air. Bang! The cold and strong palm shadow slammed heavily on Yen Yunan's face. The latter could not withstand it, and he fell down from the sky with his saber. The strong inertia caused his body to drag out a gully that was nearly 100 meters long on the ground. The rocks on both sides were like a swarm of startled moths. Third Imperial Brother. Yen Rong clenched her fists, and her eyes were filled with fear. Swoosh! In the same second that Yen Yunan stabilized himself on the ground, a burst of chaotic airflow stacked up Chu Hen suddenly flashed down from the void and landed beside the other party. He was so fast that he was like a ghost. Yan Yunan had been beaten black and blue by Chu Hen before, and now he could not even get up. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and endless resentment and hatred filled his face. Compared to the injuries on his body, the mental blow was even more unbearable for him. From the beginning, he did not take Chu Hen seriously, and he did not even look him in the eye. And right now, he was lying right next to Chu Hen's feet, just like a dead dog. How could he not be angry? Humph. Chu Hen looked at him indifferently. Then he clenched his palm, and the storage ring on Yan Yunan's finger fell off and flew into Chu Hen's hand. He used his consciousness to scan it. Buzz! The space trembled slightly, and a white light flashed. A fan-shaped token then appeared in Chu Hen's palm. The heaven and earth black and yellow token. The exquisite and complicated patterns were like ancient runes and numbers. And in the middle of the patterns, a fierce heaven character appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes. Finally, it was all gathered. This heaven token was obtained by Yan Yunan after he killed Duan Chao from Heavenly Cloud Villa. Now it belonged to Chu Hen. Thank you for your reward, Third Imperial Highness. I'll accept it, Chu Hen said indifferently. Yan Yunan was furious like a wild beast. His teeth made cracking sounds as he clenched them. Immediately, he wanted to climb up again and fight Chu Hen. However, immediately after, Chu Hen moved his feet and kicked him away. Bang! The surging force immediately spread along his chest. Yan Yunan was like a sandbag, drawing a long and narrow parabola in the air, and smashed heavily into the broken wall of a building. Roar! Chapter 714. Roar! The giant crocodile waved its sharp claws and instantly tore Yan Yunan's body into pieces, exploding into a cloud of blood mist. The hasty and short scream became the man's last words. Third brother! In an instant, Yen Rong, who was the only one left alive, had a pained expression. From the experts of the Seven Souls Palace to the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, the Alcade Monarch, and finally Yan Yunan, everyone around her died tragically in front of her, one after another. At this moment, in her eyes, the young man in front of her was like the grim reaper from the Nine Hells, terrifying to the extreme. Yen Rong's body trembled as she looked at the corpses around her. She seemed to have seen the scene of the Seven Souls Nation's destruction. What she couldn't experience, that year was added to her body today. At this moment, Chu Hen slowly turned around and looked at her. The instant Yen Rong came into contact with Chu Hen's gaze, she immediately received the signal of death. Endless fear caused her tears to flow down her face. Everything happened too suddenly. As the current princess of the Seven Souls Palace, she couldn't be arrogant anymore. Do women like to use tears to show their weakness? Chu Hen said faintly. Between his brows, there was a thick sense of mockery. To be honest, the current you doesn't even make me want to kill you. Yen Rong's dignity was trampled on by those two simple sentences. Her eyes were filled with helplessness. Compared to the people who were killed by Chu Hen, she seemed to be in a worse state. From Chu Hen's point of view, there wasn't even a need to kill her anymore. From today onwards, Chu Hen would become a nightmare that she couldn't get rid of for the rest of her life. In history, she had never been afraid of someone as much as she was afraid of Chu Hen. Of course, she brought all of this upon herself. If she had chosen to treat Chu Hen with sincerity and befriended him, perhaps it would have been a different ending. However, the cruelest thing in this world was that there was no medicine for regret. Swish! At this moment, a hurried sound of breaking wind whistled over. Boom! Then, a majestic wave of air swept out from the ground. A luxuriously dressed middle-aged man with an extraordinary appearance stood between Yen Rong and Chu Hen. Little brother, please be lenient. Along with a slightly anxious voice, the middle-aged man raised his hand and took the initiative to express his intentions. The sudden appearance of the middle-aged man immediately alerted the surrounding demonic beasts. One by one, the behemoths let out a low warning sound. "I am calling you city, Lord Lu Chang. I have no ill intentions. I'm calling you city's governor, Lu Chang." Indeed, the other party did not have any evil aura on him. Furthermore, Lu Chang came alone. This was enough to show that he was not willing to become enemies with Chu Hen. He only purely wanted to persuade and save someone. Chu Hen slightly raised his hand, and all the monstrous beasts became obedient. The ferocious qi that they released also gradually disappeared. Seeing this, Lu Chang breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was secretly shocked that Chu Hen was able to tame these monstrous beasts to such an extent. "May I know where you're from? If you don't mind, I'd like to invite you to the city governor's mansion for a drink so that I can be the host." Lu Chang was a smart man. He used a friendly method to get rid of Chu Hen's murderous aura. As the saying went, one should not hit a smiling face. "There's no need," Chu Hen replied calmly. Then he opened the purple scroll in his hand again and channeled majestic true origin energy into it. Buzz. In the next moment, the scroll released a strange wave of energy. The runes that were as beautiful as spirit butterflies shone brightly like dancers. Then, the bodies of the surrounding demonic beasts began to emit a gentle golden light. Roar! Shriek! The demonic beasts roared at the sky. The surrounding space was slightly distorted. "That's—" Lu Chang raised his eyebrows and blurted out, "Isn't that the battle beast diagram that's ranked 28th on the Holy Weapon Leaderboard?" Ranked 28th on the Holy Weapon Leaderboard? The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener knew. A trace of slight surprise appeared in Chu Hen's eyes. The Eastern Victory State didn't lack people who knew what was good and what was bad after all. With a glance, he could tell what this was. Then, the bodies of the demonic beasts released a dazzling beam of light. More than 300 beams of light shot up into the sky, piercing through the sky and swirling the clouds. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh! Then the beams of light formed by the demonic beasts surged into the sky and disappeared. The battle beast diagram summoned demonic beasts to do battle in the form of space teleportation. It could summon the demonic beasts here and teleport them back. Otherwise, it would be ridiculous for Chu Hen to run around with so many demonic beasts. Squeak! Squeak! At this moment, a little monkey that was less than half a meter tall was jumping on a half-collapsed house. It seemed to be trying to attract Chu Hen's attention. However, in the next moment, it turned into a ray of golden light and disappeared into the surging dark tide and the rotating nebula in the void. Boom! In just 2 blinks of an eye, the entire Seven-Soul Palace became empty, and everything became clear and bright. The gigantic demon beasts disappeared, one after another. Chu Hen moved his palm and put away the battle beast diagram. Then he turned around and left calmly. He did not look at Yen Rong and Lu Chang again. Lu Chang looked like he wanted to say something, but he did not say anything in the end. At the same time, he understood that the reason Chu Hen did not kill Yen Rong was not because of him, the city lord. It was because there was no need to kill her. Without a doubt, a person did not even have the right to die in his hands. This was definitely the most disdainful mockery. Yen Rong sat on the ground with a blank expression. Her heart was dead, and she was extremely helpless. Then the people from the major forces of Kongyu City arrived at Lu Chang's side. When they saw the tragic scene in front of them, they all frowned. Their faces turned pale and chills ran down their spines. Ruthless. Too ruthless. Apart from Yen Rong, there was basically no one left alive. City Lord. A middle-aged man with an extraordinary aura said in a deep voice. Lu Chang raised his hand slightly, indicating that the man should stop talking. Stop talking. Let's stop while we're ahead. If we provoke him again, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep Kongyu City. When Lu Chang heard that the Seven Souls Palace had been massacred by a mysterious person, he immediately rushed over. Even so, Lu Chang was one step too late. The entire Seven Souls Palace had been massacred. Only Yen Rong was left. The others also sighed inwardly as they looked at the broken corpses. What kind of terrifying person did the Seven Souls Palace offend? How did they suffer such a calamity? Chapter 7:15. After leaving Kongyu City, Chu Hen wandered aimlessly through the forest on the outskirts of the city. To be honest, the things that happened today still caused a relatively large impact and fluctuation in his heart. After all, he had never doubted the Dubhe Star spirit envoy before. He only knew that the deal was fair. It was reasonable for him to take something from someone else and do something for them. If they didn't know him, he wouldn't know them either. However, Chu Hen never thought that this was a trap set up by the Dubhe Star spirit envoy. If he hadn't been strong enough today, he would have stayed in the Seven Souls Palace forever. The deceit and deception in the world was really full of ulterior motives. "Thank you for teaching me a lesson." Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He let out a deep breath and stopped thinking about this matter. Boom! Suddenly, an incomparably heavy and earth-shattering sound came from the depths of the forest. What followed was the strong tremor of the earth. Chu Hen's heart was alarmed. With a move of his body, he rushed to the sky in a flash. He discovered that a mountain peak a dozen miles in front of him had collapsed with a loud bang and was directly flattened. Violent energy shock waves rose into the sky, like a huge mushroom cloud surging into the sky. What is that? What a powerful aura! Chu Hen frowned. Even though he was so far away, he could still clearly feel an inexplicable fear. An absolute expert. What is this aura? After a brief hesitation, Chu Hen turned into a stream of light and flew in that direction. To his surprise, he discovered that there was actually a familiar aura under the incomparably chaotic and surging aura. The owner of this aura had a very subtle relationship with Chu Hen. They couldn't be considered friends, but they were no less than friends. He was a strange person and an avenger. People gave him the nickname Demon Person. Taba kill. Boom. The fierce collision of power caused chaos in the sky. Mighty and terrifying waves of air swept in all directions, like a tsunami. Mountains were flattened and rivers flowed backward. A large area of the forest was crushed into powder. Wow! The three ferocious creatures in iron armor that were bound by the heavy iron chains let out shrill howls that sounded like ghosts. These were three vicious weapons refined from human bodies. They were malevolent like Asuras and had no calves. They looked exceptionally terrifying. The one controlling these three ferocious creatures was a middle-aged man with disheveled hair and a burly figure. His entire body emitted an evil aura. This person was none other than Demon Tuoba Shah. Above the area in front of Tuoba Shah, there were a few powerful figures with sharp auras. These figures were all holding cold spears in their hands, with sharp swords hanging from their waists. They were covered in majestic silver armor. Just like the heavenly soldiers and generals that guarded the heavenly palaces, the person in the lead was dressed in golden armor that shone with resplendent light. He carried a long spear on his back and gave off a piercingly cold aura that made him seem like a god of war, making others not dare to approach him. There seemed to be no verbal communication between the two sides. The power that erupted from it was like fire and water. Swish, swish! In an instant, a few silver-armored guards raised their spears and rushed towards Tuoba Shah. Wow! Like a ghostly howl, the three ferocious creatures in iron armor all burst out with a thick, blood-colored light. They split into three groups and met the attack head-on. Boom! Layers of ripples that looked like blood ripples appeared in the void. Under Tuoba Shah's control, the three ferocious creatures were extremely powerful. Under the enemy's dense and powerful attacks, their defense was impenetrable. However, at this moment, the golden-armored guard erupted with a powerful aura, and a mountain-like aura pounced forward. The cold spear in his hand swallowed and spat out dragon-patterned astral energy, as if it was gathering the holy light of a divine sun. The long spear swept down and directly hit one of the ferocious creatures in iron armor. Boom! The terrifying impact was like a flash flood. Light patterns bloomed, and the ferocious creature was directly blasted into pieces by the opponent's attack, exploding into a cloud of blood mist. Tuoba Shah's pupils shrank slightly, and he once again shook the thick iron chain in his hand. Wow! The remaining two ferocious creatures pounced at the golden-armored man from the left and right. As they moved, a monstrous, blood-red light burst out from the back of the two ferocious creatures. The red light surged like mist, turning into a ferocious and terrifying skeleton face. The chilly wind whistled, and the temperature in the surroundings plummeted. Facing such a powerful attack from Tuoba Shah, the golden-armored man slightly raised his eyelids, and a cold light flashed in his sharp eyes. Buzz! In the next moment, tens of thousands of extremely dazzling beams of light shot out from his body, and they were like the sun in the sky. The dazzling beams of light were extremely penetrative, and they were like tens of thousands of sharp swords that struck the two ferocious beasts, along with sharp, ear-piercing screams. The dense red fog seemed to have been penetrated by holy light and disappeared completely in an instant. The two ferocious beasts were minced into pieces by the terrifying golden light. The strength of this group of people was actually so powerful. Shing! The sharp, cold spear let out a soft cry, and the man in golden armor flew out like a shadow. A dragon soul energy shot out from his arm and circled around the spear. Then it brought up a sky-shattering divine aura as it rushed towards Tuoba Shah. Boom! The unstoppable spear landed solidly on Tuoba Shah's chest, and the latter's expression changed drastically. His body trembled, and his chest caved in. A mouthful of scarlet blood gushed out, and his aura rapidly decreased. Can't even withstand one blow. The golden-armored man smiled indifferently. Then a few silver-armored guards swarmed forward again, ready to suppress him and take him away. Tuoba Shah's eyes turned cold, and he clenched his teeth. Then he struck out with his palms over a dozen times. The vast and surging palm force was like a tsunami, and it smashed towards the crowd with an earth-shattering force. Rumble. The powerful palm force covered the sky, and it immediately pushed the few people back. Then Tuoba Shah flipped his palm, and a red ball of light appeared in his hand. Swoosh! With a wave of his hand, the red ball of light drew a flowing shadow in the void and flew towards the sky. Buzz! In the next moment, the red ball of light suddenly exploded with a wave of extremely uneasy power, and then with a bang, it exploded in the sky. A thick, evil aura covered the sky, and an endless blood-colored fog shrouded in all directions like a demonic barrier. All the saint-armored guards frowned, and their faces were filled with shock. The mighty blood-colored fog actually scattered around the saint-armored guards, and it quickly condensed and then turned into a giant red lantern-like thing that was hundreds of feet tall. The huge blood-colored lanterns directly surrounded the few wholly armored guards. Such a majestic scene caused one's heart to tremble. However, after trapping everyone, Tuoba Shah did not hesitate at all. He directly turned around and left. After climbing over 7 or 8 mountains, Tuoba Shah suddenly clutched his chest, and with a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood again. Then, like a bird with broken wings, he swayed and fell from the sky, heavily smashing into the ground. Swoosh! At the same time, a rapid wind-breaking force flew over from this side. Tuoba Shah frowned, and his face was filled with coldness. Then a familiar voice was heard. Chapter 716. Senior Tuoba, it's me, Tuoba Shah, who was heavily injured and had fallen to the ground, had a cold look in his eyes. Just as he was about to attack, a familiar voice rang in his ears. Tuoba Shah's heart skipped a beat. He looked over and saw a slender, handsome young man flash to his side. "It's you!" Seeing Chu Hen suddenly appear here, Tuoba Shah could not help but be surprised. In comparison, the surprise in Chu Hen's heart was much thicker. After parting ways in the Moon End City, Chu Hen had not seen Tuoba Shah again. He originally thought that Tuoba Shah should still be in the 100 Nations region. He did not expect that he would come to the victorious East region and witness such a scene. Who were those people? Were they the enemies that Tuoba Shah was looking for? However, Chu Hen knew that this was not the time to ask such questions. Without another word, he hurriedly went up to help Tuoba Shah. "Senior Tuoba, I will take you away now." However, Tuoba Shah grabbed Chu Hen's wrist tightly and said with determination, "Don't worry about me." "You can't defeat them." Chu Hen frowned slightly, his gaze subconsciously looking towards the direction of the previous battle. In the sky over there, a thick, blood-colored fog covered the sky and covered the surroundings. A red lantern that was hundreds of meters wide hung between the heavens and the earth like a shocking weapon. Bang! Bang! The interior of the huge lantern continued to emit waves of intense turbulence. The violent impact from the inside to the outside caused the surface of the red lantern to bulge out one protrusion after another. The powerful vibrations were like a rapidly brewing volcano. It was obvious that this treasure could not hold on for long. Chu Hen clenched his teeth and said in a low voice, "Senior, I will not leave you behind. I have a way to take you away." "No!" Tuoba Shah's face was pale and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His voice was low and slightly vicious. "Just now, they left a vital energy imprint on me. No matter where I escape to, I will be found. You can't save me. Who are they?" Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He was puzzled. How did the other party provoke such terrifying enemies? "No, don't ask any more." After Tuoba Shah finished speaking, he took out an iron box that was covered in dark, golden patterns. The iron box was about the width of 2 palms, and it was covered in strange runes. Take it, take it. What is this?" As Chu Hen asked, he took the metal box into his hand. The moment he touched it, an extremely cold chill surged into Chu Hen's body. Tuoba Shah shook his head and said cautiously, "There's no time to explain so much. Hurry up and leave. Remember, you must find a way to destroy the thing inside the box." "What?" Chu Hen didn't quite understand the meaning behind the other's words. However, time was of the essence, and Tuoba Shah had no time to explain too much to the other party. He pushed Chu Hen away and growled, "Go, boom!" At the same time, a thunderous sound came from the sky. A dazzling beam of light pierced through the huge red lantern. The incomparably powerful beam of light pierced through the sky, like the first rays of the morning sun breaking the dawn of the common people. Chu Hen's expression changed. At this moment, it was extremely difficult for him to make a decision. Although Tuoba Shah didn't have a good reputation in the outside world and was even called a demon, in reality, Tuoba Shah wasn't a bad person. In the 100 Kingdoms continent, he had helped him several times, especially that time in the Moon End City. If Tuoba Shah hadn't appeared in time, Chu Hen might not have been able to successfully leave the Tsang family. But he also understood that he really couldn't take him away. Chu Hen clearly saw how powerful those people were. Just the silver-armored guard alone was a top-notch expert. As for the man in golden armor, he only used a few moves to make Tuoba Shah lose the ability to fight back. The current situation was clear at a glance. Immediately, Chu Hen cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Senior, take care!" "Go!" Tuoba Shah still roared in a deep voice. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with an unbearable expression. Shortly after, he clenched his teeth, turned into a ray of light, and shot out. In an instant, he was several miles away. Looking at Chu Hen's disappearing figure, Tuoba Shah was still anxious. He climbed up with difficulty and stumbled in another direction. At this moment, a deafening explosion exploded in the sky above. The crimson lantern, which was 1,000 feet in size, expanded rapidly and then exploded with a loud bang. Countless dazzling beams of light pierced through the sky and swept in all directions. The sky changed color, and waves of air shot into the sky. As the chaotic red waves of air whistled, a few sharp figures that looked like heavenly soldiers and generals quickly flew out. Buzz! In the next moment, a piercingly cold spear light pierced through the sky and rushed towards Tuoba Shah's position. Bang! Rocks collapsed, and the ground cracked. The terrifying shockwave directly flattened a layer of soil that was dozens of meters high. Rocks of all sizes were sent flying. Tuoba Shah felt like he was hit by a violent mudslide and was once again sent flying. He crashed into a mountain, and half of it collapsed. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up. A few saint-armored guardsmen flew over, and 2 silver-armored guardsmen swung out a thick iron chain. The iron chain that was spitting out a bright golden light was like 2 pythons coiling around Tuoba Shah's limbs and neck. Then Tuoba Shah was like a wild beast in the hands of a hunter, lifted into the air. Roar! At the same time, a huge beast with an arm span of more than 1,000 meters came through the clouds. It was a huge beast with a head that looked like the legendary Qilin. But what was different was that this beast had a pair of wings, and its shape was more like a horse, handsome Qilin beast. A level 9 beast emperor, a terrifying existence comparable to a level 9 profound world realm warrior. If it appeared in the downtown area, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. The 2 silver-armored guards lifted Tuoba Shah and flew onto the back of the Qilin beast. Tuoba Shah, who was heavily injured, had no power to fight back at all. He fell to the ground powerlessly. Then an iron cage that was dozens of meters wide and tall descended from the sky, directly covering Tuoba Shah's head and trapping him inside. Even though Tuoba Shah had lost the ability to fight back, this group of people still cleanly used a series of equipment. This was enough to prove that they were well trained and were definitely not ordinary powerhouses. "You guys take him back first," the man in golden armor said faintly. Then coldness flashed through his calm eyes as he sneered. "I'll go take care of that little mouse." "Yes." A few silver-armored guards replied in a low voice. Meanwhile, Tuoba Shah, who was locked in the iron cage, could not help but change his expression. He lifted his eyelids slightly and then closed them powerlessly. Whoosh! At this moment, Chu Hen was using his fastest speed to get away from the area behind him. He continuously used the light, shaking body technique. Ray after ray of bright silver light flashed on the ground, as dazzling as the meteors in the night sky. Chu Hen was almost flying close to the ground. If he flew too high, he would be too obvious and would be easily discovered. In just a short period of time, Chu Hen had already crossed over a dozen mountain peaks and traversed a distance of 200 to 300 kilometers. But just when Chu Hen thought that he had successfully left and did not attract the attention of those people, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. Disbelief and shock instantly filled Chu Hen's face. What? He suddenly felt a powerful aura chasing after him at an extremely fast speed. The distance between the two of them was quickly closing. He had been discovered in the end. Chapter 717. How could this be? When he felt the powerful aura rapidly closing in on him, Chu Hen's expression changed. He had been discovered. Isn't this a little too surprising? How strong was that person's cultivation? At this moment, Chu Hen did not dare to guess. Swoosh! Immediately, Chu Hen sped up again and used the Alcade light movement technique to its limit. Dazzling silver beams of light bypassed the mountains and forests. At the same time, a powerful Reiki energy was released from his Naiwan palace. Hundreds of resplendent runes connected from the front to the back, connected from head to tail, and immediately gathered at Chu Hen's feet. A pair of light shadow battle boots that overflowed with brilliant lights could be faintly seen under Chu Hen's feet. Swoosh! Under the support of the rune technique, Chu Hen's speed had astonishingly doubled. He was like an aurora flying through the air. Wherever he passed, a powerful wave of air would appear in the air. He's faster. At this moment, the golden-armored guard chasing behind had a hint of surprise on his face. Then the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he smiled with interest. Interesting mouse. Swoosh! In the next moment, the golden-armored man's speed also increased explosively. In the void, only a shadow could be seen flying, and even his figure could not be seen clearly. The two sides had already begun a chase. However, the golden-armored man's cultivation and speed were far from what Chu Hen could compare to. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the golden-armored man had already arrived in the area behind Chu Hen, looking at the rapidly moving figure in front of him. A frivolous expression appeared on the golden-armored man's face. Buzz! The cold spear in his hand suddenly swallowed and spat out a bright golden pattern. Threads of light intertwined on the body of the spear, like spiritual vines. It shone brightly, as if it had been soaked in the holy light of the sun. An extremely restless and powerful destructive aura erupted. However, the figure below did not seem to notice that danger was approaching and continued to move forward without looking back. Humph! The holy armored man pointed his spear downwards with a cold look in his eyes, along with an incomparably powerful destructive aura. A spear light suddenly burst out and pierced forward like a rainbow. The terrifying flames caused the space around them to distort. The golden spear continued to expand as it moved, instantly growing to 1,000 meters in length. It was like a pillar of divine light that descended from the heavens as it smashed against the mountain peak before that figure. Boom! The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The earth exploded and the stars exploded. The earth-shattering power flattened the mountain peak in an instant. Tens of thousands of rays of golden light shot into the sky and spread in all directions. Countless boulders burst and tumbled. The raging waves of power directly crushed towards the figure below. The unstoppable shockwave then drowned the other party within it. However, immediately afterwards, that figure actually exploded into countless tiny talisman fragments, completely disappearing under the powerful shockwave substitution rune technique. Seeing this scene below, the holy armored man couldn't help but narrow his eyes. His face faintly revealed a hint of coldness. This is a little interesting. Immediately after, the holy armored man turned around and returned to where he came from. However, after searching for a while, the holy armored man was surprised to find that Chu Hen's aura had actually disappeared. He didn't know where he was hiding. The holy armored man stood proudly in the sky as his sharp eyes swept across the mountains and rivers below. The undulating mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see, and the lush forest was like a vast and endless blue sea. It seems that this mouse has a treasure that can hide his aura. The holy armored man quickly guessed the reason behind it. Then, with a move of his palm, the cold spear in his hand once again blossomed with a dazzling cold light. Buzz! 1,000-meter-long spear light blasted down with the momentum of a thunderbolt. The violent impact was completely vented on the mountain peak below. Bang! The mountain peak was instantly flattened. A large area of fresh soil, sand, and rocks were turned over, and the trees and plants were crushed into powder. In the blink of an eye, the mountain peak disappeared without a trace. After flattening a mountain peak, the holy armored guard did not stop at all. Instead, it flew toward the next mountain peak and flattened it once again. The opponent's idea was very simple. It wanted to flatten the mountain range within a few hundred miles. With Chu Hen's strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape this area. As long as Chu Hen moved casually, the holy armored guard would be able to sense his aura. Humph! Let's see how long you can hide. The holy armored guard was not anxious at all. Every time it attacked, it directly collapsed the mountains, filled up the rivers, and reversed the waterfalls. Mountains disappeared one after another, and fresh brown soil was all turned over. The thick layer of rocks on the surface was scraped off one after another, and huge pits extended and expanded, appearing under the blue dome of heaven. Just as the holy armored guard thought, at this moment, Chu Hen was hiding in a crack in the rock wall of a valley. Chu Hen held his breath, not even daring to breathe loudly. He completely withdrew the true inner force in his body. With the help of the breath-concealing pearl, Chu Hen's current state was similar to that of a rock. Boom! Bang! Rocks crumbled as a powerful and terrifying force gushed out like a flood. The holy armored guard swept through all the major areas and soon arrived at the area where Chu Hen was. A peerlessly powerful spear aura, like a divine punishment from the heavens, bombarded the mountain peak less than 200 meters away from Chu Hen. The extremely fierce impact force swept across the entire mountain, leaving countless deep cracks all over the mountain wall. At this moment, the majestic mountain peak was like a fragile tofu dregs, collapsing layer by layer and exploding inch by inch. The entire mountain range instantly turned into nothingness. Rocks filled the sky, together with a monstrous cloud of dust, flew wantonly. Chu Hen mixed with the rocks and was thrown out. Rocks of various sizes collided with Chu Hen's body. But under these circumstances, Chu Hen could only let the chaotic force attack him recklessly. He completely used the strength of his body to resist, not daring to use any true inner force at all. Fortunately, Chu Hen possessed the chaotic body, and his body was extremely tough. It was far beyond what ordinary people could compare to. Even so, a series of rocks fell, and Chu Hen was already covered in cuts and bruises. If it were an ordinary person, they would have most likely been blasted into a bloody mess. Rumble! The towering rocks directly buried Chu Hen 4 or 5 meters below the surface of the rubble. The holy armored guard searched the area for a while, and then rushed to the next mountain. It's gone! Chu Hen let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he managed to hide from them without any mishaps. However, Chu Hen was still lying under the pile of rocks, motionless. Although he had escaped once, as long as he climbed out, he would still be discovered by the guard and killed on the spot. For safety's sake, it was best to wait for the guard to completely leave before leaving. Although Chu Hen was as quiet as a rock, his heart was in turmoil, and all kinds of turbulent waves were set off. The cultivation of the person outside was truly terrifyingly strong. What grievances did Tuoba Shah have with him? How did he provoke such a terrifying enemy? Moreover, from Chu Hen's point of view, this holy armored guard seemed to only have a mission to capture Tuoba Shah. In other words, there was an even more terrifying existence behind the guard in this world. The anger of the strong could destroy mountains and rivers with a wave of their sleeves. Just where was the limit of the peak of martial arts? At this moment, Chu Hen did not dare to think about it. Rumble! A series of loud noises came from afar, and the ground shook uneasily. Rocks tumbled endlessly. Chu Hen secretly shook his head. Fortunately, the source of the power was a distance away from him. If that terrifying power had directly attacked him from above, even if he did not die, he would have lost half of his life. However, the turbulence was getting further and further away, and the other party was also gradually moving away. Chu Hen couldn't help but relax a bit, and carefully and gently let out a breath. Then, a familiar voice sounded in his mind. Chapter 718. Don't be careless, that person is back. The familiar voice of the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow was transmitted to Chu Hen's mind. Chu Hen was shocked. He once again held his breath and tensed up. As expected, after a while, Chu Hen felt a dangerous and vigorous aura fly over him, heading in the direction he had been before. Rumble! What followed was the thunderous sound of rocks crashing into each other. Once again, the opponent began to search the area that he had previously searched. No way. Again, Chu Hen felt a headache coming on. This person was simply crazy. His thoughts were actually so meticulous. If he had to endure that kind of violent impact again, Chu Hen would definitely have a few broken bones. Kill my way out? Chu Hen secretly asked. Sure. Don't blame me if you die. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow sneered disdainfully. I'm asking if you have any ideas. Don't joke around. The chances of success if you go all out aren't very high. I'll cover you. You move to the place that he had previously searched. That way you can effectively avoid his search. All right? Soon after, a strand of colorful light that faintly resembled a gauze diffused out from Chu Hen's body. Immediately after, Chu Hen suddenly felt that his body became exceptionally light, and the skin on his body became a lot more illusory, looking a bit close to transparent. I can directly pass through rocks and move through piles of rocks? Chu Hen was surprised to find that his body could actually pass through rocks of all sizes. It was as if he was using the wall-passing technique. He could move freely through the rock stratum. Stop talking nonsense. This technique consumes a lot of energy. Let's hurry to the next place. The sacred winged heavenly flame, Sparrow said. Got it. At this moment, Chu Hen felt for the first time that this dead bird was somewhat useful. At the very least, it could still help him at a critical moment. Immediately, Chu Hen quietly moved through the underground rock stratum. Soon, he arrived at an area that the Saint Armored Guardian had previously searched. Boom! The Holy Armored Guardian continued to launch fierce attacks again and again. The terrifying power of the spear was extremely astonishing. The ruins that had been flattened earlier were once again crushed into powder by the powerful impact. One after another, huge pits covered the ground. Countless deep cracks were like faults in the ground, forming dark fissures in the ground. Every time the other party changed places and arrived at the next area, Chu Hen would arrive at the location he had previously searched. This way, it was equivalent to Chu Hen constantly moving behind the Holy Armored Guard. Who would have thought that the person he was looking for was right behind him? After a fruitless search, the Holy Armored Guard could not help but reveal a gloomy expression. An icy chill surged in his eyes. How strange! Could it be that the kid had escaped into the sky? There was no reason for that. With the other party's speed, it was impossible for him to escape right under his nose. However, under a series of indiscriminate attacks, the other party would definitely not be able to hide. The atmosphere between heaven and earth seemed to have become a little more silent. After a short period of silence, the corners of the Holy Armored Guard's mouth raised indifferently. You're too naive to think that you can escape from me. Boom! In the next moment, a majestic and monstrous aura suddenly erupted from the Holy Armored Guard's body. It sat cross-legged in the void and loosened its grip on the spear in its hand, allowing it to float beside it. His hands continuously formed all kinds of complicated hand seals. Then, tens of thousands of dazzling golden lights bloomed from his body. The sky and earth were illuminated with a sparkling golden light. A magnificent golden light screen spread out in all directions like a cloud. It spread out majestically, like a huge curtain of light that covered the sky. What is this guy trying to do? Chu Hen, who was hiding under the rubble, could not help but feel a little confused. The sacred winged, heavenly flame sparrow's tone was slightly cautious. It's a large-scale attack. I won't be able to escape this time. What? As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying destructive power suddenly appeared outside. Boom! The eyes of the Holy Armored Guard, who was floating in the void, suddenly burst with two cold rays of light. It put its hands together and completed the last seal. Ming Luo's massacre. Ming Luo's massacre. Rumble. In an instant, the space within a radius of dozens of miles immediately fell into a state of violent distortion. The sky suddenly changed, and everything became bright. Countless golden light pillars erupted from the vast sky curtain that shrouded the void. Every light pillar was as sharp as the sharp spear and sword shadows, emitting a terrifying penetrative power. Tens of thousands of light beams rained down from the sky, blasting towards the rubble below. Such a magnificent scene was like a dozen suns shining brightly at the same time. Bang, bang, the huge rocks on the mountain range were crushed into powder. Layers upon layers of rocks, earth, and trees disappeared, all of them shattered by the dense light beams. What? Chu Hen, who was hiding under the rubble, had a drastic change of expression. His pupils immediately shrank to the size of a needle tip. In the next instant, the boundless aurora poured down like tidewater and poured over. Boom! The mountains trembled and the earth split open. The area within a radius of dozens of miles instantly became a land of death. The light pillars that were filled with endless destructive power formed a death ray. The rubble that shot into the sky seemed to have been swept into a storm and were all pierced and shattered by the sword-like light pillars. There he is! The saint-armored guard looked up coldly, and his sharp gaze swept across the area behind him. I see. The man's face revealed a hint of surprise. No wonder he could not find him. It turned out that he had been moving behind him all along. Looks like he's a smart person. Unfortunately, he thinks he's smart. Boom! In an instant, the area where Chu Hen was directly penetrated by the extremely powerful light pillars for hundreds of meters. In the next second, his aura disappeared completely, and he completely disappeared from the world. Has he been smashed into pieces? A disdainful smile appeared on the wholly armored guard's face. However, the next moment, his smile could not help but freeze. At the same time, his eyes were filled with deep disbelief. At this moment, in a lush forest 500 to 600 miles away, boom! A sudden loud sound echoed in the quiet forest. The birds and beasts nearby were frightened and ran away in panic. Along with a dazzling light, a slightly disheveled young figure appeared out of nowhere in this area. He smashed through more than 10 trees before falling heavily to the ground, sending a large number of leaves flying. Chapter 719. Boom! A sudden heavy sound broke the silence of the lush forest. Birds and beasts flew away in fright and fled in panic. More than 10 trees were broken by a figure in a sorry state. Dead branches and leaves on the ground were sent flying and dragged on the ground for dozens of meters before the figure finally stopped. In the end, he still couldn't avoid using that item. Chu Hen lay on the ground powerlessly. His entire body was sore, and he felt as if his bones were about to fall apart. He held an exquisitely crafted jade pendant tightly in his right hand. A gentle white light lingered on the jade pendant like gossamer. Then a slight cracking sound rang in the air. A tiny crack immediately appeared on the jade pendant. It looked a little conspicuous. It could still be used twice. This jade pendant was given to Chu Hen by the mysterious person who took Luo Mengchang away on the night she left. In times of danger, it could save his life 3 times. Chu Hen treasured these 3 chances very much. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. However, he didn't expect that the saint-armored guard's strength to be so terrifying. In the end, Chu Hen still used the power of the jade pendant once. Of course, no matter what, his life was saved. This was still the most important thing. At the same time, Chu Hen also understood that the jade pendant's function was to instantly complete a spatial transfer in times of danger. This place was about 500 to 600 kilometers away from where he was just now. Unless that person could rely on luck to choose the right direction, he wouldn't be able to find this place. Phew! Chu Hen let out a deep sigh of relief. Then he turned over and laid on the ground with his face up. His gaze passed through the branches and looked at the azure sky. That was close. I almost died. This victorious East State is indeed full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Now you know that you were a frog at the bottom of a well. The sacred winged, heavenly flame sparrow's mocking voice was heard. Humph! You only know how to make sarcastic remarks, Chu Hen retorted. I'm speaking the truth. To you, that person is indeed very strong, but if I was at my peak, killing him would only be a matter of a thought. You're amazing. You're amazing to be sealed in the 10,000 Beasts Ridge. Perhaps he had poked at the other party's weak spot, but after Chu Hen said that, the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow immediately fell silent. Dead bird? Chu Hen called out tentatively. The other party did not reply. Chu Hen pursed his lips and did not say anything more. He began to circulate the true core force in his body to heal his injuries. About half an hour later, Chu Hen sat up, his eyes glowing faintly. With a flip of his palm, he took out the iron box that Tuoba Shah had given him. The surface of the box was painted with exquisite and complex, dark, golden patterns, and a cold sensation was transmitted to his fingertips. Chu Hen's expression couldn't help but turn solemn. What exactly was inside? Were those people targeting Tuoba Shah because of this? Previously, when Tuoba Shah's family was exterminated, was it also because of this? After a brief moment of hesitation, Chu Hen's mind moved, and a strand of vigorous true core force flowed out of his fingertips and surged toward the iron box. Buzz, buzz! Immediately after, the iron box released an extremely restless fluctuation. Streaks of icy blue light immediately covered the top and bottom of the iron box, looking like a blue spider web covering it. Almost at the same time, a bone-piercing chill surged into Chu Hen's body. In that instant, Chu Hen felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He couldn't help but shiver. An incomparably sinister, dark aura surged over like a tide, occupying Chu Hen's mind from top to bottom. This aura! Chu Hen's expression changed slightly, and he furrowed his brows, hurriedly withdrawing his true core force. What a frightening evil aura! This iron box gave Chu Hen the feeling that there was a ferocious and frightening ancient beast locked inside, and he did not even have the courage to open it. Senior Tuoba seemed to have asked me to destroy the thing inside. From this, it can be seen that the thing inside is not something good or auspicious. Chu Hen thought to himself, looking at the blue crystal web covering it. It was obvious that this was the seal that sealed the iron box. Such caution meant that the thing inside was no small matter. With his current level of cultivation, no one could guarantee what would happen if he rashly opened it. After some contemplation, Chu Hen decided to keep it with him for the time being. He would find an opportunity in the future to see if he could follow Tuoba Shah's instructions. Immediately after, Chu Hen put the iron box into his storage ring. He then stood up and looked at the vast sky in front of him with a deep gaze. He clenched his fist slightly, and his eyes flashed with determination. He muttered in a low voice, "Senior Tuoba, I am powerless right now. If there is a day in the future when my cultivation is high enough, I will definitely rescue you." After saying this, Chu Hen did not stay here any longer. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Half a month later, Deer Chasing City. After a few twists and turns, Chu Hen finally arrived at the place that he had agreed upon with Haozi and the others. This was a city that was about the same size as Shanghai City, and the population was quite impressive. The wide streets were filled with people from all walks of life. There were only about 4 months left before the opening of the ancient, desolate Heaven territory. The various forces began to fight for the Heaven and Earth Black Yellow token with all their might. It could be said that the remaining 4 months would definitely be the most chaotic period in the victorious East State. When Chu Hen entered the city, he felt a few cold and unfriendly gazes from the dark. Chu Hen's expression was calm. He did not care about the hidden crowd at all. Squeak, squeak! However, at this moment, a weak sound suddenly entered Chu Hen's ears. This sound, it sounded like a mouse. Chu Hen's gaze, subconsciously, turned towards the crack of a rock in a secluded corner of the street. Focusing his gaze, he saw that in the crack of the rock, there was a white furry little fellow curled up there. A pair of small black eyes were looking at Chu Hen. Senior brother Haozi's pet? Chu Hen was slightly stunned. He knew this little fellow. It was a small demonic beast, known as the Golden Nibbling Mouse. In the past, when he was in Tensei Prefecture, Haozi had shown it to Chu Hen and Mu Feng. Because Rat was able to communicate with rodent-type demonic beasts, Mu Feng had once encouraged Rat to order this little golden cheetah mouse to steal the underwear of female students in the academy. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Subsequently, Chu Hen walked toward the corner of the street and squatted down in front of it. "Little fellow, did Senior Brother Housie ask you to find me?" Chirp, chirp! The little golden nibbling mouse seemed to be able to understand Chu Hen's words and let out 2 soft cries. It seemed like he was right. "Where are they?" Chu Hen asked. The little golden nibbling mouse came out from the crack and pointed in a direction with its little paw. This direction was not inside Jalu City, but outside the city. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched. He was slightly surprised.